I sound all right. Everything's been funky since my friend messed with my settings. I wouldn't know. I don't think I have. I have a feeling. I think I know a lot of people who might know what you're talking about. I lived in rural Michigan for a long time, so those folks probably know. It's a lot like the South. Christ.
Already jumped back in. Just appreciate. Glad to have you guys part of it.
All right, next up is Elder Drazi.
Hi, I'm Eldrazi. I am not only pro polyamory, but I'm also polyamorous. I've been polyamorous for old, like I don't know, 16, 18 years. And I think that there's really no good arguments against it other than you just want to cry about how people are doing things that make you feel uncomfortable.
Cool, Jeb.
Yeah, I'm Jeb10. As far as online presence, I'm not really anywhere but Twitter, so follow me at Jeb10RIP. As far as this topic goes, generally, I don't give a fuck what anybody does in their own relationships. But if I'm giving a prescription to somebody for relationships, I would urge strongly against polyamory and open relationships, because I think relationships are meant to be continuous pursuits of investing as much as you possibly can into a person. And I think that naturally bringing in any other person will pull from what you can invest in your primary partner.
Cool, sick.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about polyamory. I think it's pretty degenerate. Pretty much for the same reasons Jeb Tan just brought up. I'm kind of sad that he went first, but Yeah, he put it pretty well. Yeah, especially when you have kids involved and you're trying to maintain a relationship with multiple individuals, you don't just introduce like a division of the amount of time you're able to spend with those people and the amount of emotional and physical investment, but also you have people who are going to have quarrels. Necessarily, people are going to have more drama, and I think that that takes away from people who are trying to be parents. And I think there's always a competitive nature when it comes to relationships. If there's more than one person you're focused on, that is a whole different ballgame that I don't think people should be worried about, nor should they ever try to introduce.
Based. Okay. And next up, we have somebody online.
Yeah, howdy, folks. I am somebody online. I produce for a number of different spaces here in the internet, particularly the political shit show. I do interviews and things like that as well. I'd like to start out by apologizing to Chud Logic for everybody introducing themselves here. I know that it's extremely cringe because everybody knows everybody, but shut the fuck up on that. We'll do what we need to do to let everybody know who is who. Anyway, you can follow me here on Twitch or over on the YouTube, somebody online in both places. On Twitter, I am some dummy online because that's where I say my dumber things. As far as polyamory goes, I'm pretty much in the pro camp on that one. I think that the idea of trying to rely on any one person to fulfill all of your emotional and physical needs is pretty much just setting yourself up for failure in all regards. I have a lot of different partners for a lot of different needs that I need fulfilled, and I wouldn't possibly imagine that any one individual could fulfill all of my particular needs. And I've got a lot of things that I can provide to other people here in the space, and I need to be free to be able to provide those things for the people that need those things from me. I don't know about the rest of this, but I'm sure we'll get into it as we go.
All right, Stabby.
Hi, I'm Stabby Gamer. You mostly can find me being very active in Discord spaces, like making people yell at me. One of my favorites is to make people yell and then use one of their talking points back at them so they get really mad. I am polyamorous. I have been polyamorous since I was married. We actually opened my marriage for my husband, actually. There are a couple of things I learned. I think one of the downsides to polyamory is that a lot of times people who are looking for more of a romantic structure that we've been sold in those ridiculous romantic movies, or the romantic movie version that men are watching, which is pornography, we have these setups of how things are supposed to go in our heads. And so sometimes a partner can think, oh, she's not jealous, she doesn't love me. They can think some pretty gnarly, not great things. You have to work through that. But I like polyamory because it's all about communication. We're not serial monogamists that go from person to person to person and then sit there and try to tell people, I'm monogamous, but they're not because they've been with 20 partners in 2 years. We don't have to deal with any of that. And I agree with somebody online. He said it beautifully. When you actually have polyamory, there are more people than just you to fulfill the needs of another person. We'll get into it later. It might come up, and if it does, I will also discuss how when you're a woman who's been through certain kinds of traumas and you can exert certain control structures on your romantic relationships, how it can be incredibly healing, because the traditionalist structures found me to be dirty, disposable, and bad for something I did not do to myself, and that was absolutely not my fault, whereas polyamory never viewed me as bad. They viewed me as somebody who had a right to heal from and actually move on from and be valuable, loved, and considered sexy or worthy. So if we get to that part, I'll do that in this as well.
Awesome. And so just a reminder, this is kind of like my blood sportsy / drama / politics panel. Try to bring the energy up, guys, because this is meant for entertainment. And don't get offended if I yell at you. That's just my chat
Oh,
thinks it's
I'm already
funny when
offended. Already offended.
well, my chat thinks it's funny when I yell at people, so I don't care if you're offended. But
What if
anyways,
that's my kink and that's what I'm here for?
awesome. Everybody, we're just gonna open up the panel then, and yeah, let's just get right into it.
Yeah, I'll
Why?
jump in.
Okay, go ahead.
I have and I think one of the problems exemplified in this concept was actually shown perfectly by what Stabby just mentioned, where she said monogamy saw her as damaged for something that she couldn't control, but polyamory did not. That's not the case, right? The partners she was monogamous with saw those things, and the partners she's been polyamorous with didn't see those things as damage, right? It's not a matter of getting as many partners as you can to sort of piecemeal your perfect partner. I think the goal of finding someone and partnering with them is to match up with someone that you have a good foundation and things in common with, And then it is a lifelong pursuit of becoming that person's perfect partner. And that level of investment, I think, is what makes relationships special. And I think the way that you create a strong bond is understanding that people are so complex. You're going to die 50 years from now with the same partner, still not knowing everything about them, because you guys are going to grow and change together. And you rob yourself of that when you try to find your needs being met in 30 different people, as opposed to, or even 3 or whatever. I don't want to exaggerate. Instead of just working with your partners so that you guys can meet each other's needs. That's the pursuit of a relationship.
Yeah. I might actually disagree with you on some level, Jebtan. I thought you were going to be a homie. You're when you're describing monogamy, it sounds like you're describing like true monogamy, which is like having a committed partner and then basically following them till death. I don't give a shit about that. I just think when you have a child, you should make a effort to actually stay with that person and have a stable lifestyle. I think it's okay for in life to have ebbs and flows. I think children can understand that, can basically cope with it. Jesus, probably shouldn't mute me for my own stream. Um, no, but shut up, somebody. Yeah, but it's okay to have ebbs and flows, and I think, and on some level, the whole reason that polyamory doesn't work when it comes to children is because our society doesn't really support that kind of structure. I think if we had a sort of structure where 7 people could be in a relationship, all work towards the same goal of raising, let's say, like 3 or 4 children. And then if one of them decided they wanted a divorce away from the relationship, I don't think we have a structure that really understands how to divvy out that wealth and divvy out those responsibilities. And I don't know that it's ethical to say that if we're okay with having a structure that supports polyamory, that like one partner is able to just walk away from 7 others and not have any obligation to the child.
What structure do we have? Hold up. What polyamorous structure do we have that is damaging children? I want the stats.
No. I'm saying we have a lack thereof of a structure that would support polyamorous relationships. You essentially could just.
Polygamy. No, it's a non-starter. It's a non-issue because polygamy is illegal. So now what?
What do you mean? Okay.
I actually have a study
Okay.
ready that shows that polyamory is not damaging to children and explains the benefits. It's
Please,
a
I
fully
would love
cited paper.
to know.
Yeah, no problem. PDF
So
work for you?
you can't just one of the things I want to make sure
PDF
that
is
you stay
fine,
away from here, Sick. One of the things I need you to kind of stay away from is where you start naming all of these things all of us are familiar with, but quite frankly, this is an actual crisis that is the fault of the trads. It's the serial monogamous with all the divorce and walking away from their children. Like it's all over the place. I'm not saying that polyamorous couples don't do it too. I'm just saying that there's such a rare structure within how we do our relationships that we don't even show up on the list for the divorces and the people leaving their children and the like all of this craziness. If you're going to sit here and have it as specifically against polyamory, I'm going to need you to be honest and admit that this is something that's affecting mostly the monogamous. Like, guess who isn't getting divorced? People who haven't married. Okay, like, keep focus, please.
Well, yeah, you sort of just pointed out the
without getting
reason.
divorced.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Eldrazi,
Is
you're echoing a little bit.
Savvy, you just pointed out why the stats as far as polyamorous people not getting divorced as often as monogamous people don't matter is because they don't get married. So obviously they're not going to have high divorce rates.
Most
But if you look at
most polyamorous people are married.
If you look
Oh,
at
they're married. I thought
sorry, guys,
polygamy was illegal.
yeah, I thought you just,
one second. Eldrazi, I think you're still echoing a bit. If you don't
I don't
mind.
think it's me. I was watching my mic values had nothing.
Okay.
It's definitely you.
But if you look at monogamous couples too, because you specifically said trad monogamous, which is kind of funny because if you look at the most traditional monogamists, and this is kind of the struggle we've had when trying to make marriage look a little bit more progressive, is the most traditional monogamists actually tend to have the best marriage retention rates and the lowest divorce rates. People who only marry within their culture, people who only marry within their community subgroups, they tend to do the best.
So we're also counting the people who have many wives. We're the most trad cultures in the
No,
world.
we're talking. I believe the top is the top is monogamously married Jewish people. I believe is the highest success rate for marriage. Completely monogamous.
West.
Yes, obviously we're talking about the West.
Eldrazi, I think it is you who's echoing. I see.
We're talking.
It is. It's very much him.
That's weird.
Specifically the United States.
I had myself muted there. I was still.
So we're going. If we're going to the United States, then we have stats that can go against poly people.
very limited reasoning for divorce, and generally marrying people upon the same value or religious culture subculture that you are part of.
I'm not really, to be completely honest with you, I'm not really willing to be in like I'm not really willing to entertain the idea that cultures can prohibit divorce, or that they can have like fewer reasons for divorce. A huge reason is like I'll challenge people when I say my ex-husband left me. Like beyond chaining him to my house, how do you inhibit his freedom of movement?
No, that's what I'm
To
saying
leave?
is they don't have to. Just as subscribing to a culture that sort of limits the
Oh,
ability to
he does.
divorce through social pressure
He does.
tends
His
to lower
father's a
divorce rates
pastor.
quite a bit. Yeah.
His father's a pastor. He's more on the
I'm not
conservative
talking about
libertarian
your ex-husband. I'm talking about as a generality among communities
talking
that
about as a
abide by the things
generality
I
in the
was talking
United
about.
States. Like these
Yes.
people are still leaving. You're not going to get them to stay with your traditions. So now what?
What are you talking? I'm saying that
what
they
do you mean?
do. I'm saying they do it. I'm saying people who abide by those guidelines in their marriage do get divorced less. Like, it is just a fact. They separate less and they get divorced less.
Why do you assume that it's the monogamy and not the Judaism that's keeping people together? It could be the fact that there is such a pressure in the Jewish community to not get divorced that is what's preventing people from getting divorced, not the monogamy.
I don't necessarily think it's just pressure. I think you're right. Judaism does have a part of it, but I think one of the values in Judaism that has the biggest share of it is their value of monogamy and working on a relationship as opposed to seeking outside satisfaction
Well, can you
instead.
Which
explain
of their leaders valued?
why that's the
But which of their
why it's
leaders
monogamy?
valued monogamy? That's what I want to know. Which of their leaders
What?
valued monogamy?
What?
I don't know
Which-
if
Why is that a
leaders
tradition of
value
theirs?
monogamy.
In their book, all of their greatest leaders and the ones that they follow actually were famous for how many wives they had in their harems. But okay,
I
we
mean,
can
Yeah,
skip that.
that's great, but that's
So-
not what they're reinforcing in society. So I
Yeah,
don't-
and also, I mean, if we really want to get in the nitpickiness, you're probably talking about guys like Solomon, who at the end of their lives said that the pursuit of many wives was one of their, his mistakes, and that it was meaningless, and that it made relationships meaningless, and things like that. But he ended up prescribing against it. But to what Elder Drazi was saying, I think the values of monogamy that they share, it's not just like pressure; it's also just the fact that they're marrying people who generally believe the same things and have the same values as they do, which just kind of goes to what I'm saying is, yes, monogamy is going to make it harder to find the partner that satisfies you the most, because you are relying on one person to not only meet a good number of the guidelines from the outset, but also have the same attitude as you in terms of investing to continue improving themselves as a partner specifically to you. But that is something you see a lot in traditional marriages. And I think that's why, even though arranged marriages seem really shitty, and even I don't really approve of them, they tend to have, even in the West where divorce is okay, they tend to have lower divorce rates and higher marriage happiness rates, because the assumption is you're going to know nothing about your partner and your job is to become a good partner to them. I think we don't need arranged marriages to have that. We should just inject that attitude into our voluntary marriages to make the best possible relationships.
So if that's what you value, how would you inject that into your marriages? Because again, y'all are holding them fucking divorce rates. So if you could fix that, maybe we
You
would
can't
like
get
have
divorced in a polyamorous relationship. You just can't. You
no,
already said yourself they're illegal. It's
no.
not going to be recorded like
Most
that.
stop, sit, calm down. The biggest one that we have is that these are open marriages. That's the biggest reason for polyamory. So they are married. They could get divorced to the partner they're married to. They're not polygamously married. They don't have marriage certificates with 5
That
people.
is important.
Yeah.
When we're saying 2 people are married and then everybody else is external to that marriage that's supported through law.
Yeah.
How do we have a statistic for the people who are unhappy with the 2 baser people and decide to separate? Are we recording that statistic?
You can decide to separate. This is happening constantly.
Yes, you
They're
can do
not
that
getting
when you're
divorced.
married too.
But it's not going to go down as a
why are the
divorce.
open marriages? Wait a minute. Why are the open marriages not the ones who are divorcing? It's just the separations we have to count, but we're not
Because they're not
counting the fact that
married.
the open marriage is not. No, the
We're just
open
saying the
marriage.
numbers
Do
don't
you
make
really want an answer to that question?
Absolutely.
Because the institution of marriage has been watered down to a contract sanctioned by the government.
Which institution of marriage? Somebody clear
The
that up for me.
whole thing.
No. The real problem is you can't put these numbers side by side when one person can literally split from 5 of the 6 people in their relationship and it doesn't count as a divorce, and then the other person only has to split with the one partner they're with and it counts as a divorce. That's why you can't put these numbers next to each other. But if you're asking how I would inject these values into a relationship, that's a good question. And it is exactly what I'm saying, is when people want to get divorced for reasons that like the falling out of love thing, especially with kids, as Six said. I think falling out of love is stupid. Love isn't a feeling. Infatuation is a feeling. Love is your investment in a relationship. And so I think instilling the value in people that love can be refound by rediscovering and reapplying your own investment. That's how I would inject it in people's relationships. Is the understanding of love is not a Hallmark movie feeling and scene in a fucking movie. It's to redefine love as an investment and a work, which is what religious structures have an easy time doing because we have definitions for all these terms. But secular people, I think, tend to struggle with because they're right. They have no like moral grounding as to why, if they don't have kids, they should stay together if they're just not happy, which makes sense. But I think even secular people should hold this value because I think they'll get better relationships out of it. So there's a secular interest in doing it.
Well, the reason why it's more of a conversation today than it ever has been is because of the instant gratification mindset that definitely comes as a part of this modern age, right?
Yeah.
So you look at that, and it's hard for people to see where things should be 6 months down the road. You know, if they actually were investing time to try to make things better. You know, and that's a lot of it's just kind of a self-defeatist attitude whenever it gets to the point where you're at divorce anyway. So
polyamory isn't degenerate how we understand relationships and people's willingness to invest in the monogamous relationship, which we're asking them to partake in. That's degeneraate. Like, so,
well,
like what we're doing now
as I
is
read the
degenerate.
definition of
No,
degenerate, as I read the definition of degenerate, it here, let me just go ahead and I'll pull it up and then I'll read it.
Yeah, I think what's degenerating relationships in the United States is a consistent call for relationships to feel right and to feel easy all the time. And I think polyamory was a natural sprouting out of that, where people were like, well, why wait for this partner and work with this partner that's struggling to understand my needs to catch up and invest and start meeting certain needs of mine when I can just go and find someone else to do it? I think
reject this.
that degenerates
That's
relationships.
not. I think you have a poor understanding of what polyamory is. One, polyamory is
That's
not
exactly
just
how
one thing.
somebody online described it. That's why I'm attacking it.
What?
Polyamory is not just one type of relationship structure. There are many different types of relationship structures. For instance, I know that Stabby has a different kind of polyamorous relationship than I do. I am with my wife, and I also have a girlfriend. My wife is also dating my girlfriend. She's also her girlfriend. And so I don't see how I have to, one, split up my time to make sure that I'm meeting the needs of both people. Each one of us has two people working together to help meet our, it's like my wife and my girlfriend both work towards meeting my needs. And my wife and I work both towards meeting my girlfriend's needs. And it goes around like that. If anything, we have more people working on the structure of a relationship than there would be in a monogamous relationship. This is not how I always practice polyamory, but that's where I'm at right now in my life. And also, I take issue with the idea that in your opening statement you said relationships are supposed to be, and then you gave an explanation. I don't know why relationships are supposed to be any given thing if the thing that is happening isn't like bad. So like it seems like you're saying it's degenerate because it's not meeting what I see relationships as supposed to be, and I don't know what your justification is for the supposed to part.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Sick.
I just wanted CTV to get to the definition of degeneracy because I think it's actually really important.
Yeah, so I looked it up.
Mine's obviously different, I think.
I look it up. First thing I see here on Google is having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline.
Okay, never mind. Mine's
Very well. Is that the definition of America in the West and our marriages? Yes, it is. So currently, you guys have to fix your fucking structure before you come at me and tell me what's
Hold on, Stabby. Hold on. Hey, is my mic working? Great, it's working.
It's working wonderful.
Now, awesome. So the next time you decide to go on some fucking rant, woman, right? You better make sure that there's a party in the room that's actually guilty of it. Now, moving on from there. So
marriage is degenerate. You are conceding
that. What I am saying is that the perversion through the need to claim things for tax purposes is exactly how we end up in the conversation period end of story, right? So the problem that I have is that Christians even wanted marriage to be as a part of the language of government to begin with. I really feel like that we need to be changing the word that's being used because, frankly, it does fucking matter.
I agree that Christianity is degenerate.
So y'all get back to us as soon as you fix your shit?
No. Actually, what we're trying to do, what you would want is for us to build shit to accommodate you.
Yeah, I mean, that's
No, because we
essentially
don't
what
want
it
to get
is.
we
No,
don't want to
that's
get
what
married
it
to
is. That's what it
hold on.
is.
You can't just name something and then say that's got to be what it is. No, what we're
I didn't
saying
say
is
it's
that
got to be what it is. I said that
we have the
is what it
freedom.
is.
Hold on. We're not asking to marry more partners. We're not asking to have polygamy. We're not asking for anything, actually. You guys keep coming at us. We're minding our own business. Our relationships are working, but you trads can't keep it together.
Yeah.
for 5
Your
goddamn seconds.
relationships are
So,
working because you don't have to put them
Nick,
on paper
are you
and then
Hold
married?
you
on.
say,
I don't
"Hey,
even
we're
know if
doing
that's true.
great."
Like,
Actually,
is your
you don't
relation
even.
sick? Is your relationship working?
Huh? My relationship already failed, but thanks.
Okay, exactly. So I'm the one who is capable of saying that my relationship failed and your relationship failed. I'm a
Open
polyamorous
marriage has a
person.
92% failure rate, by the way.
Hold
I'm
on.
not
Wow.
even
I'm the
open
person.
marriage.
Wow,
Hold on.
that's a B plus.
I'm the person. I am the person who is here saying that relationships fail because relationships fail. You're the person here who is the monogamous
That's like
trad
saying the tire
trying
goes
to
flat
say
because the
that
tire
they
goes
don't
flat.
fail. They don't fail if you are what you are, but yours failed. There's the
Oh, right.
problem.
Yes. I understand it might be a problem, but I don't take my own experience and extrapolate it onto an entire nation just because I don't fit what the statistics are.
No,
Okay.
no, no. I'm not either. I'm not
I have
telling
an
you.
anecdote.
Am I
I have
telling
an
you? Am I
anecdotal
telling you to be
experience.
poly? Am I telling you to be poly? Am I
I don't
telling
think
you
you're
you have to be
telling me to
poly?
be
Yes or no?
poly. I think you're looking at me having a failed
I'm
relationship.
telling you to leave me the fuck alone. I can be poly if I want. You can be monogamous if you want, and you can just fucking
Wait, hold
handle
on.
it.
No, wait,
Hold
no,
on.
I'm just saying there's a
Did you
Anti-freedom
double
come here to have a
standard
fuck.
by you saying
conversation?
that poly relationships are so successful, but they're not even on the fucking books.
Yeah.
No, poly relationships are working for me, and you can leave that alone. You can't morally posture about that, especially when you are trying to tell me that when we're trying to look for relationship stability, we have to look for the highest divorce rate in the world, and we're not going to take that. Okay, listen. Let me do it from
You're
an appeal
right. We
standpoint.
never should have
Let
let
me
women have a
TTV.
say in any of
Let
this
me
shit.
do.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. We could go all the way trad, and you guys could marry children again because we know that's exactly what the fucking
Wow.
trads are after. Now,
Oh yeah, that's
going
Wow.
exactly what I
That
forward.
said
certainly sounds like a self-report.
when I specifically
Going
defined
forward.
traditional. I
No, no, no,
definitely
no, no, no,
included
no.
that,
You
right?
guys were marrying children. Just fucking admit it.
I
You were
was.
marrying
What the
children.
fuck are you
Yep,
talking
when
about?
did
trads were
I marry
marrying
a
children.
kid?
That's
You're
100% true.
crazier than hell,
Yeah.
woman.
Okay, I wanna clear up the room a little bit. I'm gonna give CTV a chance to speak. I want to get somebody online in here as well, because he hasn't spoken yet. So go ahead.
Look, I'm going to be 100% honest. It is enough for me to keep up with one woman, okay? Trying to keep up with more than one, like I don't care how alpha giga chad you think you are, right? You need to find one that's willing to put up with your shit and treat her like a queen, right? That's what you do. Now, after you do that, then you protect it. So
So your
then you
position is
don't
to
worry. Then you
simp
don't
and
worry.
then
No. Then you don't worry about. It's kind of like this. There was this video that I saw where Destiny was being asked about other people having sex with his wife, right? And I hear him, especially when he was talking in that room where they were talking about relationships, and he said, not being selfish was the definition of love, and that he was looking at it from a different perspective. And it's like, okay, I can understand that perspective, right? You are doing something that if you didn't otherwise, you would see as selfish. But in reality, and I don't really care who the man is. Every man I've ever talked to, right? There's a difference between the poker and the pokey, right? Like if the pokies are getting poked a hell of a lot, I don't know. Like most
I don't know
guys
what you're
like to
trying to
have
say, my guy.
one sheath for their sword, and they
Jesus
don't like.
Christ.
No, not this.
What are
I,
we doing?
Just
No, no, no,
you can
guys.
just
Let's
say
let
I
it
hate
happen.
women. You could just say I
Let's
hate women.
let's let it happen. Let's let it happen.
look, men like to have one sheath for their sword, right? Look, when they're younger, right? This is where you experiment, right? You know, you kind of find yourself. You're making your way through the world, and you're just kind of trying things out, right? But when you get older and you figure out what kind of man you want to be and what direction that you're going to go, the right woman will be there.
The right sheath for your sword.
That's right.
Why is it her
Okay.
job to
Amen.
take care of you? Like, aren't you a grown ass fucking man?
Wait. Do you think that there's any relationship to include a friendship where there's not a certain amount of doing work for the other and they're working with you? Yeah. Yeah, the
Kind of
patience
child.
necessary to sit here and have someone act so disgustedly, right? Just a difference of opinion, certainly is an exercise of my patience, right?
Wait. Did I call straights degenerate, or did I say that American marriage is not working? It fits your definition of degeneracy.
It's just the overall attitude. I'm just
Well, if
making a
are
comment on it.
you looking at polyamory with disgust and now saying disgust is uncalled for?
No,
Okay.
I don't think he
no,
said he's disgusted by polyamory one time. I don't think any of us have.
no.
So why is it degeneracy?
It's degenerate. So I think you're holding a connotation of degenerate, which exists in other areas. But when you look at the definition, right, degenerate things aren't just degenerate; they are degenerating, or they have been degenerated. We are saying that the values of polyamory degenerate relationships by spreading the investment and making it tougher for people to invest truly in one person. And we believe that the traditional value, the traditional moral value in relationships, and for me, not even moral value, but emotional value, even though that wasn't included in the dictionary definition, is taken from when you cut your own ability to invest in your partner. Even if that means that someone else is picking up that slack, even in a 3-person polyamorous marriage where whatever I'm not investing, the other person is, so we're good. We actually have like a team investing. It still degenerates the relationship between you and the other individuals in the relationship
Did
because
polyamory
they're
cause
attempting to
I
split
wanna-
that
polyamory cause the
twice.
downfall of marriage, or did the downfall of marriage cause polyamorous people to start looking for some
See,
other
I
meeting
feel
strategy?
like someone who's so intent to pick at what I'm saying would listen harder. I said what is degenerating relationships and marriage in the United States is the idea that relationships need to be easy and they need to feel right all
No,
the time, and that
Jim,
if you're not having a need met within your relationship, you need to look outside of it. That's
Jim,
what's
here's the deal.
degenerating American
I want
marriage.
to give
Jim,
somebody online a chance here to speak because he hasn't had one yet. So go ahead, somebody.
No, I appreciate that, Stardust. I feel like everybody's conflating like 3 or 4 different things. We've got like open marriages that people are talking about. We've got polyamory, and then we've got like closed monogamous marriage. And again, these are completely different things. Again, when it comes to like partnership, like there is the concept of partnership that I have my wife. This is the only person I ever interact with. This is the only person that I share everything with. This is the only person that I'm going to do anything with. But you have a lot of different partners. You have a lot of different friends. I have friends that are not my wife's friends. My wife has friends that are not my friends. We don't have to share these things. I can be in a relationship with 20 different people. My wife doesn't have to know these people. My wife can know these people. My wife can have her own relationships with these people. It doesn't have to affect anything. You know, I could have children with previous partners that I'm no longer in a relationship with. It's not damaging to the ability to raise these children if the children are getting the love and the attention and the care that they need. I can go on and have other relationships with other people. Those relationships can be sexual or don't have to be sexual. It doesn't really matter. There is levels of trust, and it really comes down to boundaries and everybody forming the relationships that they want to have. The issue that I'm seeing on this panel is the people that haven't participated in polyamorous relationships, haven't tried open relationships, are kind of going, ew, that seems icky from where I am. And I think that that's causing harm to society because I don't think that I can conceive of a way that this could be functional and healthy in any sort of way. And I think that again, anytime that someone is outside of a situation and then points at a situation and goes, that's the issue with society, they're not taking enough time to look at themselves and figure out why they feel that way.
I love that, but no one said, ew, that feels yucky, and gave no reasons why it degenerates your ability to invest in a relationship. And nobody is just kind of taking shots in the dark and not trying to purposefully engage with your guys' definitions of why this shit is okay and why it's the best thing for you, right? I'm not talking about what's morally right, what we should legislate. I'm saying what I think puts out the best relationships. That's what we're talking about. And we're not saying that no one can do it. But I want to ask a question because it's foundational to I think where I want to go with this, and anyone can answer. Do you think there is value in having the person in your romantic relationship be the person who comes first to you?
No.
There's no value in that. Okay,
What do you
Jazzy,
what
do
do you
you?
even
If
mean
you
by
have
that?
children,
I'm not sure what you
I
mean
want
by
to be
that.
very careful. If you have children, no. I don't think
I
anything should
mean,
come before your
even
children. I'm
okay, if
sorry.
you don't have children, then
Whoa, I would
Sure.
totally disagree with that because you have
I
two
agree with
people.
you, Sick,
Yeah,
but
yeah, we have two people who need to keep themselves up and running so that way children are taken care of. I know there's the old adage, you feed your kids first, then your wife, and then yourself if you're like living in this, 60s era, like, misogynist mindset, which I don't think misogyny is all bad. I think some misogyny is pretty based. I'll be honest. But I just we have two people who need to keep each other running. I don't think it's wrong to say if something goes wrong with my partner, I need to put them first. I'm sorry, there's some situations where I could probably see my kid dying and my partner dying, and if that's a lifelong partner, I might sacrifice the kid.
yeah.
I don't
So
Okay, from an
disagree with most of what
evolutionary
you said,
Children
Sick.
pause,
have to come
pause.
first.
From
This
it,
is the
wait a
next
second.
generation.
Not from a polyamorous perspective. For every person on the earth, and I'm gonna throw women under the bus here. No, I'll throw me under the bus. Okay, we have an
Oh, you're an
evolutionary.
abortion supporter, aren't you?
No, pause. Don't jump the gun. I'm asking you a genuine question. Okay, I'm a woman. I went baby crazy. I have very low bars for what can cause an abortion amongst me, despite being pro-choice. So don't go there. Okay. From an evolutionary perspective, females of the species are willing to let go of everything for their children. So when men are coming to us for mating, in the long run, what we say goes, right? Because we're the ones who are
No,
making the next generation.
that's actually not
Yeah,
correct.
see, okay, so you'd like throw your daughter under the bus, and so I guess you shouldn't have gotten divorced. You should have
Yeah,
sacrificed your
I
child.
like how you say that. As if any situation in which I have to choose between a partner or my daughter, I would pick my partner most of the time. No, 99.9999% of the time, I'm gonna probably pick my kid.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
for me,
and
it's
the reason
100%. From an evolutionary standpoint, for me, it's 100%.
Well, no, the issue with the scenario you're bringing is we're talking about in the case of neutral needs, where one need is not cannibalizing the other. The only limitation to you meeting those needs is your limitation as being an individual human being. We're not saying in the wild sense, where the males of a species tend to eat the fucking kids, that the woman should step
Yeah,
up
fuck
and
them.
protect the kid. Yeah, obviously.
Fuck
But
them.
what I'm talking about is in the case of neutral needs. The child's need doesn't go against the wife's need, and the wife's need doesn't go against the child's need, but I'm one person and can only meet one at that given time.
A better way to put it.
Choosing the wife should come first.
Do you know what fatherhood jealousy is and why a lot of marriages begin to struggle when they start having children?
Yep, and I've already ruled
The
that out
attention of the
in
wife
what I
goes
just
to
said.
their biological children, and they have
Mhm,
a problem with their own biological child getting attention from the woman they want to fuck.
mhm.
Like that's a
And
problem.
yes, and so that is exactly
Thank
what I
you. Okay, I'll
identified,
just
where
there.
you have
That's a
to
misogyny you
rule.
like,
Yeah,
sick.
thank you. That's the thing. I don't know. I didn't even know that was a thing because I don't think I've ever experienced that.
No, she's not listening because I already ruled out those cases where there's obviously not a
It's
neutral need there.
huge.
That is not a
It's
neutral need.
huge.
The father at that point is now making his needs cannibalize the child. So in that case, you would obviously pick the child, which is what I just fucking said. Just open your
Hugely
ears.
common.
I would
It's
I didn't
hugely
say it
actually
common.
extend
wasn't, but
your
I
question, Jeb.
accounted for it in my
You
hypothetical.
know what else is pretty common? Poly relationship statistics not being fucking recorded. Okay.
Yes.
I
And
don't
when
care.
they
Like,
are being
And yet you're
mention it
still
as
recorded.
trying to
common.
blame the degeneracy of marriage on that, sick. Calm down.
No. When we talk about degeneracy, it's not just in relationships in and of itself. We're talking about a larger society here. I get Jebtan's obsession with the society or the relationship structure, but a lot
Yeah.
of society is just having these recursive functions that work into each other. And
Mhm.
when we're talking about what is degenerative, what qualities are we having as individuals that when seen on a larger scale are actually undoing the fabric of what society is today
Mhm.
that actually works as some functional structure?
Yeah. And I don't think that poly relationships are ruining monogamous relationships. I'm saying the values that are ruining monogamous relationships are largely what is driving people toward poly relationships. I'm not blaming poly. I think poly is actually the end symptom. I don't think
The
poly is the
reaction to
cause.
the symptom.
Well,
It's the
hold
reaction of
on.
exactly what you're saying, which is monogamous relationships degenerating in America. And they're thinking we need a different solution because these relationships are going wrong and we don't know why. I think they're finding the wrong solution to that problem.
I don't think that what
So,
you're
Jeb, you
suggesting
would
can
prefer-
possibly be that. Oh, sorry.
Hmm?
Somebody go ahead and then
No,
I'll say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jeb, you're suggesting that people that are unhappy in a relationship should force themselves to stay with that individual and just give up on that happiness temporarily, maybe, and then hopefully try to find happiness in some
No,
other way.
no. So I'm saying a much greater happiness comes on the other end of at least attempting to reconcile. Because
And if
either
reconciliation is impossible,
if it's well, I'm obviously not talking about that case of reconciliation is impossible. That's not the majority of divorces in the United States. What I'm saying is if reconciliation is impossible, confirm that through effort and investment so that there's no regrets when you either continue in the relationship or let it go. But don't go outside of the relationship to seek to have your needs met. In your case, you're just trying to force yourself to stay in a
Jeb,
relationship
hold
that's
on.
not meeting
Hold
your
on.
needs by inviting other
Hold on.
people
Are
in.
you aware? Hold on. Are you aware that in almost all of the states in America, when you get a divorce and you do it yourself to save yourself money, not have lawyers, not have to pay mental health care fees, etc. If you do it yourself, you actually have to go through about 18 months of a family court mediator and actual couples counseling and talking. Okay, so this is an investment we're already taking to not just at will divorce. We don't just go down and go, I'm going to buy a divorce ticket now. Like it's still like a 2 to 3 year process and it takes a shit ton of time. So we're not just like throwing it all to the wind. If you say, I'm not in love with this person anymore, it's not go down to the drugstore and get the I'm not married anymore certificate. It's literally 3 years of your life. And the state is going to get very nosy. Look at all of your bank accounts. Look at if you guys are getting along, they actually have to have a counselor who says, yeah, this is their problem. And the other counselor says, this is their problem. And what they say goes into the case, not what you say. And it's like a nightmare. It takes 3 years. There is no at-will divorce where we're just, get out of marriage free.
None of that has anything to do with what I'm saying.
I hate to disagree with somebody on my side, but my first marriage was remarkably smooth. We showed up. We met at a restaurant. I signed the papers, and it was done.
If both parties
No
are
marriage.
consenting,
that
Wait,
one
was that
divorce.
because you guys weren't splitting assets and shit like that though? Because that might have been what
It was a
made
very clean break. Yeah, we both agreed on like
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, we had children. We had children, so we had 18 months of counseling. We had to have the family mediators meet with the kids every month. I had CPS come into my home and investigate me like a total of 4 times before the custody arrangement was done. One of those was from the first time when we tried to divorce in 2010. He didn't want to get remarried, so I left it until 2016. Then he got engaged, so he needed me to be gone. So he went ahead and went forward with it. And I had 3 more CPS visits. Just a nightmare. It took years for this to happen.
Well, and divorce rates among people with children are a lot lower. So it could be part of why, which is that divorce is a lot harder. So people are going to invest a little bit more probably before they get divorced in that circumstance. But when you don't have kids,
and
it
in
is
the
a lot
states I'm
easier.
mentioning, in the states I'm mentioning, they're forcing you to.
I just want to point out are these CPS visits happening because there's a dispute on who should get children?
Yes. Yes.
That kind of stuff is very important because when we're talking about something that's legally binding and then we have disagreements on how that breakup is going to happen, like of course that's going to elongate the process. If we're talking about just an optimal breakup, I don't think that 2 people who want to get separated, they don't have to work very hard to do that.
But what's insane to me, but hold on a second. This is why I'm having like this cognitive disconnect with what you guys are saying, okay? You're agreeing with me when it comes to children being involved. And then you're immediately disagreeing. Wait, you're agreeing with me and how long it is, and that there's not these, oh, I give up and I quit. And that's not what's happening with divorces involving children. And you're presenting all of your arguments about, yes, but I only mean if you have children.
No, that's not what I said.
But now that's not what you're going with.
I clearly made the mistake of extending you charity. What I'm saying is I understand that it can take that long when you have children, when you have assets, and when you have disagreements about how custody and those assets should be separated. What you're saying, as far as people can't just go to the divorce store and get a divorce, is largely untrue if they agree on how the assets are split or have signed a prenup and they both want to split. Even if they have kids, if they agree with how the custody should work. It largely is a fairly quick process. With kids, it's obviously going to be a little longer than without kids. But what I'm saying is largely what you're saying kind of goes to what I'm saying and promotes my argument, which is that the easier it is to get divorced, the easier we make this stuff, the more often people get divorced. Now, that's not the problem. That doesn't mean it being easy to get divorced is the problem. The problem is we need to attack these root causes for why people are getting divorced. And I think it's because relationships are consistently portrayed as things that need to be easy, and you just need to find the easiest road to getting all of your needs met. Whereas traditional relationships usually say, no, don't go with the easiest road. Go with the road that is proven to bring the most happiness, which is a road full of investment and work and effort, so that whatever happens on the other end of this relationship, even if you do eventually get divorced, because even the Bible says you can get divorced if you're abused or if you're cheated on,
Fuck the Bible.
you
What
have
does the Bible
no
have to do with this?
regrets at the traditional marriage. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the
Even-
Egyptians had it first. Continue.
Holy shit, dog.
Egyptians
Anyway,
had the
I'm
whole
saying
religion
across
first.
3,000 years first,
I'm
when we
saying
weren't even tribes.
across
But
the
okay.
spectrum of marriage, stop deflecting from what I'm saying. Across the spectrum of marriage, from most traditional to least traditional, we accept divorce is a possible end. But I think that putting investment and work in first voluntarily without the threat of divorce all the time is the best way to have the happiest and most amicable divorce and the happiest and most amicable relationship at the end of the day.
Since
Is
You know
knowing
what
you did
people?
everything you
No, no,
could.
no. Do you know what the actual fear there is? Is if we harder we're gonna go back to people who genuinely needed to get away from a horrible relationship being unable to do so because of what society needed from them.
No.
Like there's going to be a
Because
caution there.
what I'm saying doesn't impact their ability to get divorced at all.
Well,
Okay,
we all
okay.
agree that divorce is bad, but no matter where you look, there are 3 reasons. They all shuffle around depending on where you're looking, what study you're
Yeah.
going to. The primary 3 reasons are a lack of commitment, money. Well, lack of commitment is also always grouped in with like arguing all the time. This is often
Yes.
seen as like,
Yeah.
so we have like
I agree,
basically
yeah.
not getting along. We have money and we have infidelity. These all
Yep.
range from number 1 to 3. Now, I think that it's particularly egregious to be violating the contract of a relationship if you're already polyamorous. If you're sneaking around somebody's back when you don't fucking have to get your needs met, I think it's particularly bad. But if you're in a polyamorous relationship, we're eliminating one of the largest causes for the thing that we all think is bad, which is divorce. If I'm not having my sexual needs met because I'm not going to try to force my wife to meet something she doesn't want to do, I don't have to rely on her anymore, which
But
means there
that's
is no
not-
negative impact on my relationship from there being a conflict in needs.
No, that's not true because that assumes the only reason people get divorced as a result of infidelity
I
is
didn't say it's
because
the only
it
reason. I'm saying
violated the
it's
marital contract. No. What I'm saying is,
big one.
no, I understand. What I'm saying is, I'm not questioning the share of infidelity in terms of how often it causes divorce. I'm saying the reason why people get divorced because of infidelity isn't just because of the breaking of the marital contract, right? It's also because there might be a level of like, I don't want to say sacred because people attach religious like stuff to that, but there is an emotional value to having one sexual partner. And that doesn't, you
So
can't
do that.
completely eliminate.
if
You
you're
can't
monogamous,
agree,
there
though,
is.
that it's definitely degenerate, right?
Well, what I'm saying is, I don't think the data shows, because the only number I can find is for open marriages, but it doesn't seem like open marriages, poly marriages, there just isn't data on because there's so few people who have them.
Sure,
But open
so you should
marriages,
listen
the
to the
only
people
data
that
I'm
are in them.
finding. No, I shouldn't listen to individual anecdotes. I should still use the data that I do have, which is 92% divorce rate for open marriages.
I
And
don't
when
have
it
an
doesn't
open
work for
marriage.
us,
Yeah,
and when
but
it
an
isn't
open marriage,
working-
an
wait,
open
wait.
marriage does the
When
same
it's
thing you're
actually-
saying your relationship
pause.
does, which is eliminate the infidelity issue, right? Because
You're
they're
telling-
okay with people going and having
But
sex with
Jeb
other
Tan,
people,
Jeb
but
Tan.
it doesn't keep them from getting divorced.
No. Jeb Tan, you are trying to talk about a degeneracy to relationships and a
Yes.
devaluing of relationships to people
Yep.
who are reacting to an acknowledgement that those have failed. Instead of asking the
But
people
we disagree
who
on
believe
why.
instead of asking people who agree with you, who
You
think
don't.
that that's what. Stop. Jesus fucking Christ. Let me finish the sentence. Instead of you taking your pretentious little arguments to the people who think like you and asking them to do better, you're telling us we have to stop our acknowledgement that y'all are fuck ups and we're doing it a different way. And you're telling us to stop so that because it's degenerate instead of focusing on how much of a failure you and the trads are.
Oh boy, no, but
I don't think you really understand the
No,
question.
she was asking me. She was asking
She
me.
doesn't
Though.
understand the. She doesn't understand the question though.
No, she
right?
doesn't understand. She doesn't understand any of it because she's not listening. But I'll explain again. The
Okay,
trads are
I'll give
doing
it to
the
Jeb10 for now, and then I want to get CTV in as well after
yeah.
Jeb10. So.
The trads specifically are doing the best. Statistically, they are doing the best. The trads are doing the bestest, and
Small
I
section of them
am.
are.
At divorce, correct.
I do very often come at people who are monogamous and do dumb shit in their monogamous relationships and don't invest enough in their monogamous relationships. This isn't the How Can Monogamous Relationships Improve panel. This is the Is Polyamory Degenerate panel. So that is why, yes, on this panel, I'm focusing on
Why are we
polyamorous
talking about
relationships.
trad fucking failures then?
Because you keep bringing it up.
You're the one who's telling us how we have to have marriages to be happy. You're telling us what's happy and why we need.
Yes, I'm telling you guys what I think is the best way to have a relationship because we're on a panel about what is the best way to have a relationship and the
No,
specific
we're on a
context
panel
of
about
is
is polyamory
that
degenerate.
way. Yes, and
Yeah.
obviously that falls under the umbrella. If you're going to say one thing is not as good for relationships, you should probably present your affirmative case for what is the best way for
My
relationships.
relationships are working.
It's
I don't know about you,
natural.
kiddo.
Yeah,
Six
real
are.
easy, real easy.
Mine are great.
If you wanna drive your point home, can be so easy. I am married. My wife and I have the same girlfriend. I have a kid. My wife lives with me. My kid lives with me. My girlfriend stays with us sometimes. Tell me how I'm being degenerate. Tell me what I'm doing that's hurting my kid, that's hurting society, that's hurting myself, that's hurting my girlfriend, that's hurting my wife. Give me an example. Tell me where I am
Again.
degenerating.
I feel
Yes,
like
it would help.
I feel like I need to explain this so many times, even though I
Wait,
already have.
You said you
I
don't have the
think
data, so I'm here. Tell me how
things that
I'm
are
degenerating.
I said the things that are degenerating monogamous relationships are what lead people to polyamorous relationships, not that polyamorous relationships are directly degenerating monogamous ones. I've said it 10
Monogamy?
fucking times by now.
Monogamy is an
Let's give-
agreement between two people. Before there is an agreement about the structure of the relationship, by default, you are already in a polyamorous relationship. A polyamorous relationship is a relationship that does not have a restriction on partners. So,
What?
by default, human relationships are, by default, polyamorous. They become monogamous when there is a conversation had and boundaries established between two people in the
Again,
relationship.
what goes to what I'm saying is the relationships that tend to succeed the most are the ones that shorten or completely eliminate that part of the relationship, which are traditional religious monogamous marriages.
Let's give it over to CTV because we haven't spoken in a while. Okay.
I feel like it should have been really easy to tell me how I'm degenerate, but sure.
I know.
But I
they
wasn't
just-
arguing that you were degenerate. That's what you're not understanding.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, it's
trying
like-
to explain it
That's the
over
run.
and over and
Yeah.
over.
Her accent changed.
I'm telling you. I'm
Ugh.
telling you, right? So look, as Jeb has said a couple of different ways, I'll try to say it in a different way, right? The people that are getting offended right now and feel like they need to defend themselves are not understanding the question, right? And the question is whether or not the practice of polyamory is degenerate, right? So while I can understand that you have a personal attachment to your emotions, in order to be able to move the conversation forward, I need you to check your feelings, okay? Your fifis.
So you're gonna
right?
tell me Jeb10 over there like hitting his face and pinching stuff that's not emotional? That's cute. Nice.
Well, I wasn't
no,
doing that.
like
I was
to-
just figured it would be really easy to use me as an example. If anything, I'm putting my emotions out on the anvil for you to hammer them.
Yeah, no,
So I
Elder,
think it
you
should
were
be very
right.
easy to pick it apart.
You are not emotional, but you are still misunderstanding what I'm saying. What
Yeah,
do you
'cause
think
what-
I'm
the-
saying?
the
You're
overall-
misunderstanding
hold on, hold on, hold on,
You
hold
to
on.
demonstrate it.
Hey, it's CTV's turn to talk. CTV, finish what you're saying.
Okay, so to move this thing forward, right? The practice of polyamory, degenerate, on the decline. I think, at least from where I'm sitting down here in Florida, right? It certainly seems like moving forward from here, this hookup culture, this just having multiple partners, like it certainly seems that from all ages and peoples, right? The conservative idea of having one partner and trying to figure it out with that one partner seems to be what most people are doing, right? So, is polyamory degenerate? Well, the question is it on a decline? Seems that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, Elder, by asking me to tell you why you're
no.
by telling me to tell you why you're degenerate, you're demonstrating a misunderstanding of my point, which again is I don't think polyamory is degenerating monogamous relationships. I
No,
think the things that are
Monogamous
degenerating monogamous
relationships are broken
relationships
and degenerate.
lead to polyamory, right? So if you're asking me what I think is degenerate to a relationship in your relationship, I would say the fact that you don't have a partner in your relationship that comes first. And if you do, then you are not committing your highest level of investment to them by seeking to get your needs met by somebody else.
why would
Either
somebody need to
way,
come first? Why would you? I guess this is what I don't understand. Why should one person always come first when in everybody's life, nobody should ever always come first. It should be a hierarchy based on who needs your attention the most. Sometimes my job needs me more than either of my partners need me.
Can-
That's gonna come first. Sometimes my
Okay,
kid needs
yeah,
me the most.
so
They're gonna come
that's-
first.
I can answer this question. We're not, I mean, again, this is about degeneracy. We have a current structure. If we're talking about what we should do, there are things that work and things that work less. And I know people love to bring up statistics about not single, married couples, people who get divorced. I just want to say, if it was up to me, just for 1 year, maybe 2 years, I would love to have this authoritarian structure where every time you got with somebody, it
Every
was legally...
conservative.
Wait. No, shut your face, Stabby. Every
Good boy.
single person you got
Obey
with
more, you
that you
cunt.
wanted to be in a committed relationship with, if you were poly, if you were just monogamous, I would want all of it recorded. Because the problem with people like Stabby and the problem with people who bring up statistics about marriage is that it's like saying, okay, marriages are failing. You guys have like a 3 out of 10 success rate. And it's like, okay, motherfucker, maybe we're not doing so hot. But you're not recording your statistics, so maybe you're 1 in 9. And you say you want to be left alone, and we're saying, hey, bitch, that's fine. Nobody's saying you can't be poly. We're just saying maybe you should be honest about the comparison of statistics, and you cannot compare to something that does not exist.
Okay, so in answer to Sick, because Sick mentioned me like 5 times because he's about to come on meltdown mode. Good boy. Now, because Sick mentioned me, I'm going to fucking answer that shit. Now, if you're going to sit there and you're going to feed me this motherfucking line about, which ones people like Stabby, etc., then
Well,
all
if you
I'm
don't
going
want to
to
be fed,
respond
stop
with-
opening your mouth.
shut up, CTV. All I'm going to respond with here is I'm going to say, of course you need an authoritarian structure to enforce what you're doing. Since you are the authoritarian structure, I'm going to posit an actual problem to you, and I'm going to ask you for your genuine fucking solution. Are you ready? So when I was married, my ex-husband and I, he was working 24 hours a week. I was working 10 days in a row before having a day off. I had a 2-year-old and I was breastfeeding another one, and I had to put my breast milk in a cooler. I had to run constantly. I was cooking everything from scratch. I was doing all of the cleaning. I was doing everything. First and foremost, before we judge him too harshly, he was going through severe PTSD. He'd gotten blown up and he was recovering from dysentery. So he was having a pretty hard life. And there are things that I had to be okay with. The problem is when he started saying that I needed to simultaneously be there for him and put him first, because this trad idea of men having to be coddled, because none of y'all can take care of yourselves, he wanted me to make sure that I was the trad wife who was home all the time, but also working more hours. How on God's green
Where
earth
do I
am
sign up for somebody to wipe my
how
ass
on
for me?
God's green
Where
earth
do I sign up for
am
that?
I supposed to be able to do that? Sick, can you tell me what would have solved that marriage?
Okay.
Point to who on the panel made that argument?
She asked me a specific question.
I'm asking you to solve my prayer marriage. Shut the fuck up,
Yes. You say, how do I do that? Well, it sounds like you couldn't do that. It sounds like that relationship was not fit for you. I would say, go to an office, file for a divorce, be a fucking statistic, and then when you become poly afterwards, also be another statistic. Okay?
So you don't have a solution. It's not degenerate. I was doing it right the first time.
Because
You're
you are
screaming at me for no
responsible for
reason.
your own relationship.
Okay,
You're responsible for being in and out of it. That's fine. I'm just saying it's a little unfair for everything to be recorded on the marriage side and not be recorded on your side.
Wait a
I want to
second.
know what your statistics are.
Shut up. You don't have a fucking solution for a very specific thing I gave you and was being vulnerable enough and open enough to have you solve for me, and you don't have a fucking solution for it.
Solution was.
And you don't have a specific solution for it, but also,
handle that.
you want the
Are you offended
authoritarian.
because you
Can I
opened
finish the
up?
sentence? Can I finish the sentence? I'm supposed to trust you with the authoritarian power to do enforcement when you have no clue what you're talking about?
Do you remember what he said
the
he wanted
only
to enforce
authoritarian
authoritarianly?
Yeah, the only thing I
No,
would
he
be
just did. He just
enforcing
said that,
is
actually.
is the only thing I would be
He
enforcing
didn't listen to a word you
authoritarian
said, man.
as an authoritarian is record keeping. That is it. You are responsible for everything else. You can come and go as you please. I'm just saying, for a year or two, let's get some fucking statistics going so that
Yes.
way people like you can't just hold shit over married people and divorced people's heads and then not have any accountability on your end for your relationship practices as an
You know what
entire
I'm making?
demographic of poly
No,
people.
So
no. Do
if
you know
we're
what I'm
gonna
making right now? I'm making
Open this
bridesmaids
up. This
dresses.
is
No, we
this
are
is an
making. I
endless
am making
argument between you
bridesmaids
two.
dresses for
You
my
don't care
sister.
about each other's opinion.
Well, and
You don't
she's
care
also
about each
Listen to
not.
me,
other's
Dan.
opinion.
To be fair, she's also not listening to a word anybody says after she hears a buzzword she doesn't like. She heard him say authoritarian and then just assumed what the rest of his sentence was
Yeah,
going to
he
be
wants
and
actual
didn't
tracking.
listen to
He
his.
wants actual
Listen,
fucking tracking.
Stabby.
He wants to see who's to blame, and we already said that the degenerate falling apart of marriage is something that marriage is dealing with. And you don't get to say I'm holding things over married people. I am literally making bridesmaids dresses for my sister's wedding as we speak.
No one
So
fucking
And
cares.
you'll
You make
be
bridesmaid
there
dresses.
for the
That doesn't
divorce
speak
as
to what you
well.
bring up inside of the debate.
Yeah,
Okay?
I wish you
Uh,
would actually stop making bridesmaid
okay.
dresses and start listening to what people are saying on the panel so you can respond in a
I
not brain
wish
dead
you
way
weren't
would be
a
really cool.
5-year-old dumb fuck, fucking dead killer.
Jesus.
And then
All
you
right,
would have
all right,
something
No,
of
guys.
value
okay.
to listen to.
Quick interruption here. I'm gonna just read a couple of super chats, and then Tuna Chip
Tuna
wanted
chip,
to
yeah.
join.
Yep.
First thing is, Testy in the chat says, "Divorce is for quitters and sinners. Please explain to the panelists why divorce is a moral failing." Well, I'm not going to say that. I am not going to do that.
Biased moderator.
Testy also says for $5, polyamorous people are like vegans. They can't shut the fuck up about how much better it is. Aeon
What are
for,
we eating, though?
Feel
Aeon
attacked.
for sorry. I'm
It
so
almost
sorry.
sounds like they're just trying to convince others of their bullshit.
Aeon for
Yeah.
$10 says monogamy is a newer idea than polygamy of antiquity. It isn't going back to poly, which even in modern times tends to manifest as epiphenomenal polygyny, a backward decline and thus degenerate historically. It's a
Fuck
good
that
question.
word.
Okay. Tuna Chip, did you want to get in here and say something?
Yeah, for sure. Because Team Poly has not sent their best. I got Elder Drazi here. He hasn't even turned his fucking lights on. His fucking green screen showing. We got somebody online. The bird has a bigger brain than he does. And Stabby here doesn't know how to have a conversation, even with someone as bald as Sick. The ideas are literally plastered on his fucking forehead. It's not hard. So let's go into it really quickly. I want to address Jeb Tan's point here, and then I'm going to lay down a foundation for a good understanding of polyamory in general. Because you have talked about this, and I think that's actually a reasonable thing to say. Why exactly are people? This is such a delayed fucking camera. Let's just acknowledge that right now. Holy shit, what a low quality. Why are people being poly now when for a really long time people weren't going into it? I do think that there's a degeneration that's happening, and it is a symptom. I agree with you, Jeb. This is not a thing that is being started by polyamory. Polyamory is an adaptation to a new condition, but I don't think that it is a negative adaptation. Jeb seems to think that it's a negative adaptation and that allowing for the adaptation is like a way to get around it. I think it's a positive adaptation. It's as simple as this. People don't enter relationships with a common purpose anymore. Nowadays, people are going into relationships because they feel compelled to have a relationship and they don't really know what the point is. Some people, the relationships that do well, the people that aren't getting divorced, this is the key factor. They went into the relationship with a common goal and they're not leaving the relationship because they're still working towards that goal. Polyamorous people have the same division breakdown. Some polyamorous people, all they want and all that anybody in the relationship wants is just to get a nut busted, get juices spilling everywhere. They don't want kids. They don't want to do any fucking, they don't want holy matrimony. They just want to come, bro. They just want to fucking come, bro. So if we're talking about those people, have they degenerated? No, because they weren't going to be good suitors for marriages anyway. They were going to cheat. They were going to leave. They were going to
So-
break up.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
people
so-
are
Just
already
so
fucking
to-
out of the
polyamory,
dating pool. It
I
actually
just-
cleanses the dating pool of the types of people that cheat. That's what
Yeah.
you should be thinking of polyamory as, is people self-removing themselves from the positive system.
I'll go after CTV because I've talked a lot. So go ahead.
Go for it.
So it sounds like the summary here is that there's no way for polyamory to be degenerate because that would assume that it had risen at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, polyamory is the natural state of humans before we started putting on the enforcement. It is like what
Not
we do. And
necessarily.
also, I want to go into a
Necessarily.
big thing. Even if your definition is that people aren't always finding themselves in these conditions where they have multiple partners simultaneously, that's because simultaneously is being used with a certain narrow bandwidth. You have probably slept with one person and then
I have
stopped
never slept
and
with.
then broken up and then 2 weeks later slept with another person. If that's the thing that makes it monogamy, is that you broke the contract, then you can't actually take yourself as a traditionalist, because before it wasn't about contracts, right? It wasn't
no.
about like we're dating and then we're not.
All right, let me respond. So
Okay, go
one
ahead.
thing, I want to thank you for accurately portraying my argument and responding to it, and portraying that it might be a boring conversation because we generally agree as far as why poly relationships exist, why
Make it
monogamous
spicy.
ones exist. Yeah, I'll make it spicy
Make
though
it spicy,
now.
bro.
I'll make it spicy now. With the biological thing, that's wrong in a sense that it's actually a biological monogamy was a biological imperative. It reduces the risk of people who are related to each other fucking each other in the next and following generations when you have more unique pairs of partners. And it actually creates a more resilient population. And it also maximizes reproduction because even the people who would be left out of reproduction in a polyamorous thing, because that's where all the Chads get all the girls and all the other dudes don't, right? You increase the amount of biodiversity and the amount of people who are eligible for reproduction when you allow for unique monogamous pairings as opposed to polyamorous pairings. And also, to go against our actual disagreement, which is that polyamory is a positive thing, I agree with you in the consequence, right? Which is that they're self-removing themselves from the thing. But as many people who have seen me in the whole Lav arc know, I care for even the most hard to be charitable to people.
So
And I want people who will suck at monogamy to work on that and get better at it. So, because I believe monogamy creates the best relationships. And even for the people who believe they can't do monogamy, I think the best outcome for them is to get themselves to a place where they can, so that they can experience the quintessence of a relationship, as opposed to ruling themselves out so early in their lives and then wasting so many of their like eligible, single, desirable years with this experiment, instead of just trying to go to therapy, maybe look for a belief system that they can root themselves in, where they can find like-minded people who are also rooted in that belief system, and create a really quintessential relationship, as opposed to just ruling themselves out of what I think will make them the happiest.
yeah, I just want to add one little thing. I like that in Tuna's explanation, it was sort of baked in that because poly people have sort of self-selected themselves out of the system, they have already degenerated and therefore suck, and maybe we shouldn't acknowledge their opinions.
Kind of based, little based.
Hey, I don't even have a problem with it because I'm pro poly from the anti poly. I'm a poly ally of sorts. Throw them in the gutter. Throw them in the fire. I don't care.
So exactly. So if we're doing polyamory, have all acknowledged that what we're seeing is a reaction to the failures of monogamy and the failures of what you guys are saying will make us happier. We have acknowledged that will not make us happier, and you're just going to let that go,
It's
right?
No.
Stabby, you're making a wrong argument here because it's not actually the failures of monogamy.
No.
Monogamy is also itself always a response. Monogamy and polyamory are just two different tactics for dealing with the
We're
question
being
of
told to
how
do
in
this.
the I'm not done with
We're
my
being told to
sentence,
do this to be
Stabby.
happier.
I'm not done with my sentence, Stabby. Shut up for a second. I actually am on your side here. You don't have to interrupt me. No. Everybody is just trying to get their needs met, right? That's all anybody wants. And your needs, your wants, your desires, everybody has to respond to the stuff around them. it's not actually accurate to say that monogamy is what is creating the conditions that are making it harder for people to date. Most of the people you're dating are not people who are, oh, well, I want to be monogamous when you're a person going around. Most people are just chasing their desires and hooking up and fooling around, and they don't actually have super strong stringent rules. We're past that sort of like Catholic society where everybody's coming in with the same expectations. We're now at least in America, where I'm talking about, we have like 7 different types of expectations going on, and what we have instead is like an incoherent dating field. Some people are like, oh, well, we're not exclusive until we say. Some people are like, we're exclusive the second you send me a text. Like, there's no real common ground. So
Yeah.
everybody's going in it with it fresh, from a fresh perspective.
That's what
I know
kind of
what's
surprised me.
That's not
is-
fair because I know what the expectations for monogamous men here trying to date me are. They tell me what they are. I don't want to meet those expectations.
I know, because you're a generalist, because you specified a very rare and highly specific and sucky circumstance. Like, we agree that monogamy isn't going to make it so 100% of people have good relationships. We're saying that monogamy will make so that the highest percentage of relationships are as happy as they could possibly be, or at least that's what I think. Tuna, I resent the idea that you say that you don't have emotions, because the most emotionally intelligent thing I've heard on this panel was relationships work when 2 people have the same common goal. And I totally fucking agree. And I personally think that common goal needs to be a goal of a continuous effort to increase investment in your relationship as time goes on. And I also think, well, no, he said I said I think, right? That's why I said I think before that part. But even when you're what I'm saying, Elderdrazi, because when I'm looking at relationships, you're talking about like you're essentially throuple, right? I'm still looking at what are you maximizing?
Triad, but yeah.
Triad. Your triad. I'm looking at what can make each of those relationships in the triad, your relationship with your wife and your relationship with your guy's girlfriend, as fulfilling as possible. And so for me, I still think that works with having the same common goal. And I think you found what is a very unique situation in polyamorous and open relationships, where it seems like the 3 of you might align on a common goal. So you're one of the unique relationships in that realm that works really well. I think from the very few statistics we have, what we find is the average poly relationship lasts a little bit longer than the average monogamous one, but their divorce rate is about twice as high, which makes me think what I draw from that is people are willing to settle for lackluster individual relationships between them and each of the individual partners because they have a cluster of people that kind of combine to meet the most of their needs. But then eventually, twice as often, they find that actually doesn't work.
So,
okay.
Yeah,
Jeb, I wanna respond to something before we get onto this like long strain of thought about
I go on
Drazi's relationship, because I think that we'll use Drazi as a case study, but I didn't even finish doing the thing with you, which is if you agree that the main reason that these relationships are failing is people are going into relationships out of a sense of being compelled. These are compelled conditions, and because of that, they're not going in with an agreement. They're not setting themselves up for success.
Yes.
I think that making this argument that people should be doing monogamy is not actually going to go in away from that compelled condition. It's actually moving towards the compelled condition, because now people are entering relationships not only because they're compelled, but now they're entering relationships and setting rules inside of the relationships that have nothing to do with their goals and have exclusively to do with the idea that, wait a second, I do believe that monogamy is the condition that is natural and normal. And I am told monogamy is the only way to not have a degenerative form. That's not going to work.
So
yeah, but I don't
I'll give
really
a
see
short answer.
Look, poly's not the default state, though. The default state is no sex.
Yes,
well, no,
it is.
hold on.
Yes,
Hold on. Wait.
Relationship.
Let me give a short answer and then throw it to Elder, because I did like immediately. I did talk about him directly. So let me give a short answer. I disagree. I think the reason why compulsion has been a problem in relationships is because we're compelling the relationship, but we're not compelling the values that make a relationship strong. We're compelling the relationship part, but without the value. We're compelling the image of a really nice, happy, pretty family, but we're not compelling the values that make those relationships strong. And in communities where we do compel those values, like traditional religious communities, we tend to see more successful relationships and then I'll go to Elder because
Wait, 1 second. Elder,
Uh,
you can respond in 2 seconds. I just want to say, poly people, I'm on your side. If there's less monogamous people and I don't have to hear them talk for 5 minutes straight, I'm on your side. We can all be poly. Okay?
Go
I
ahead,
don't.
Elder.
So the thing is, I don't advocate for other people to be polyamorous. In fact, I think the reason why my relationship works is because I treat all of my partners the same way in that I don't set rules for you. I set my own boundaries. This is something I very rarely see in any monogamous relationship. Monogamous relationship seems to be, here are the rules if you want to date me. You have to do this. Ooh,
Somebody's echoing. I think
Stabby, you're
Stabby's
echoing a little bit.
um, these are the rules if you want to date me. You have to do this. You have to do this. You can't do this. For me, it's never you have to do. It's I don't want to do this. I won't be a part of this kind of a thing. And these are the kinds of things that I would advocate work in monogamous relationships. They work in polyamorous relationships. And I think that these sorts of standards that I have naturally allow for a polyamorous relationship to form and flourish. Because if it's about what I am not comfortable with doing and you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with, that means that if I find something that I didn't know might be fulfilling and the situation arises, then I am free to do what I want to do. And when we talk about finding somebody who's great for you, that would be somebody who does not want to impede your ability to live the best and most fulfilling life. And so for
Yes.
me, oftentimes polyamory really means is not limiting the types of connections that I can have with other people.
And you're right? That is the ease of a polyamorous relationship. That's what I was saying earlier. Is monogamy does make it take quite a bit longer, I would say, to find the right partners because you're looking for one person who has, like Tuna said, a shared goal with you. And while that can seem easy, the reason why strongly traditional religious like marriages tend to last the longest, I don't think is because a lot of the really restrictive things and rules in those religions. I think it's more that these people have a very strong and kind of direct defined goal that is so close. Whereas the looser you get, like I'm a Protestant.
Yeah, they're cattle. They're
Yeah.
cattle. They're
Yes.
cattle.
I want to
Yeah.
I want to interrupt real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
We have 2 more super chats in here. So ASD Assess says Stabby traded in being a trad wife to be a sister wife. Lulz. I don't know if that's true. Stabby, did you want to reply to that super chat?
She didn't hear
You're
it.
muted.
Can you say it again?
Muted.
Yeah. ASD Assess with $5 says Stabby traded being in a trad wife to be a sister wife.
No, so I wasn't ever a trad wife. I was the main
You were the
entire
what?
time I was
You
Beautifully
cut
said.
I
out
was
briefly.
I was the main breadwinner the entire time I was married. I made more
Oh,
money
okay,
than
yeah.
I was never a trad wife.
Yep.
Brad King.
Nicholas says for $5, somebody's got to come first in the relationship. Usually, stamina is a factor. Very nice one.
Okay.
I want
Well.
to throw it to CTV
Good job,
and then
somebody.
somebody online because I think these two have been kind of quiet. So, CTV, why don't you go?
Well,
Come on, big
since I just kind of got it thrown on me, let's
Do you want me to
back it.
switch to somebody else and give it back?
No, I'm building it up. Stardust, hold on. So let's back it up just a little bit, right? The topic of conversation is whether or not polyamory is degenerate. And I said earlier, I don't think polyamory is the default state for a person, period. Right? The default state is no sexual activity, right? And then at some point you begin to engage in sexual activity. And at that point, that's when you need to decide whether or not, right, you're going to be monogamous or you're going to be a little bit more cavalier, shall we say, right? So once you make that decision, at some point you may end up changing your mind back to the other, right? But the default is no sex. The problem, I think, with the reason why a lot of relationships end up failing is because sex seems to be if not one of at least the top 3 main reasons that people even bother having a relationship at all, right? So that's where the goals that you guys are talking about, those like getting someone pregnant has the potential for an 18-year payment plan. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether you're the catcher or the pitcher, right? The responsibility of the life once it enters the world is there. So you might want to be a little bit careful about who you're choosing to have sex with, period. So from the start, unless you are in like a situation where neither one of you can get pregnant or can get the other pregnant, etc., you're probably going to be having that kind of conversation, and traditional polyamory is going to be the choice that you have to make.
Okay. I think that I was able to pull a sentence out of that 15
No!
grains of sand that fell out your mouth just now.
No, Tuna Chip, it's not your turn yet. It's somebody online's turn
Somebody.
first.
So, yeah, I'm sorry that I've been quiet here. This has been kind of a shit show, and everybody's pulling strings in different directions and running in all sorts of different ways.
Nah.
Sick pointed out earlier on that he wants to talk about like trying to uh, like keep records on people in polyamorous relationships, and I think that that's a little bit unfair because we're not keeping track of everybody that's in a short-term relationship where they're dating somebody and then they break up. That's not adding to divorce rates. We're only looking at people that are in permanent marriages. And someone else brought up open marriages previously. I think that that is kind of an accurate representation of polyamorous relationships potentially, but there's a lot of polyamorous people that aren't getting into marriages. They're just living in these open relationships and moving from one partner to another partner. Tuna Chip put it really well because, again, a partnership is when two people have a common goal and are trying to achieve that common goal together. If two people get married and they don't have a clearly defined set of goals that they're trying to achieve, that marriage is going to have an issue because the partnership is going to fall apart. Just like if you start a business with somebody and one person thinks, hey, we're starting a computer business, the other person thinks we're starting a construction business, the business is going to pull itself apart because it's moving in two different directions. You can have multiple business partners, you could start up multiple different businesses, and each partnership that you're forming, you're going to be working toward a shared common goal with that individual. And it's the same thing if in an interpersonal, like friendship, relationship, sexual relationship, two people have the same goal, they're trying to achieve that same goal together. If at any point you don't have that same shared goal anymore, you go find somebody else that you do share a same goal with. You don't have to just have one goal that you're working on for your entire life, because it doesn't work that way. Everybody is constantly trying to achieve multiple different things at the same time, and you
Yeah.
need different partners to help you to achieve these different goals. You can't
Yeah.
sit there and go, well, I'm going to marry this person, so this is the only person I can start a business with. This is the only person I could potentially buy a house with. This is the only person I could ever start a family with. This is the only person that I could have a sexual relationship with. You need to be able to adapt and to go and find people that are able to fulfill the needs that you have, because you have multiple different needs. And putting all of the pressure on one individual person to do everything for me and be everything for me constantly is way too much pressure for any one individual, and it's going to end up breaking the relationship apart because you're asking too much from one person.
I'll respond to that, but I've talked a lot, so Tuna going before me.
Yeah, this
If
refocuses
I
the
can get in after
conversation.
Chip.
We need to refocus the conversation around the most important thing, which is we're not actually talking about relationships then. We're talking about sexual exclusivity and whether or not it is conducive, whether or not it is necessary towards making romantic relationships actually an effective action. So we're going to talk about the main arguments on the left and the right side of this, however you want to organize it. Pair bonding as an argument, as essential towards creating the types of relationships that are good for people. And then two, this idea of what is a productive set of boundaries
I mean,
inside of a romantic relationship, which is the more evolved version of that same question. I
that's my
don't
thing.
believe that it is a productive boundary to say to somebody else in your relationship that you can't have sex with other people, even if the goal that we have in common has nothing to do with and is not held back by non monogamy. So that means if you have a marriage whose goal, or you have a relationship period whose goal has nothing, is not held back by non-monogamy, then you don't need a fucking boundary for it. It's stupid to have that boundary. It's
I mean-
inconsequential.
So I'll jump in then. I have a problem with sexual exclusivity being the only part of the conversation, and I hate that he just left because I think Elder would also, from the
I was just
poly
letting my
side.
dog in. I heard her.
Okay. I
He's got
feel like
wireless
barks.
headphones.
cool because I feel that Elder doesn't look at polyamory as purely a sexual boundary. I
Not
think
at
it's
all.
also it's also a romantic boundary, and I think he and I would find agreement, and I think there's more to it than sexual. I think there's a difference between a romantic relationship and a friend relationship outside of sexuality. And I think sexuality also has implications outside of what people really fathom. And so I think a lot of people assume their common goal doesn't require sexual monogamy, and they don't realize that sexual monogamy plays a part in accomplishing the goal. Because my issue is in athletics, there's two things you can be training for. You can train to compete, or you can train to be elite. I think a competing relationship, right, is one that succeeds, it doesn't get divorced, and they die married. But an elite relationship in that context would be one that is like fulfilling everything that relationship could and getting the most happiness out of it as possible. I think a relationship that can compete can be driven on a common goal, regardless of what that goal is, usually, unless that goal cannibalizes the relationship itself. But to be elite, to like get the quintessential relationship, to get the most you can, I think that common goal does just have to be a continual
No, I
increasing
think. Hold on,
investment
Jeff.
in one.
Jeff.
Hold on.
No, hold on.
It's 10 seconds away. Investment in that
I want to let you
relationship
keep
is
going.
I know, and as much as
but-
possible in that relationship, and monogamy is essential to that, because I think by having sex with other people, you are taking away from your ability to continue to invest in that one relationship in every single way, because a big part of a relationship is sexuality. And so I think investing solely in your partner
Your 10
sexually
seconds
is
suck.
part of it.
Go
Okay.
ahead, CTV.
Okay, so
I'd like to
like
respond
you,
after you, though, please.
Yeah.
so
And
you
after
said-
Elder,
I got
please.
big responses to this motherfucker.
So when you said compete and elite, right? I think you're definitely on the right track with the compete definition, right? Finding somebody that's going to work with you day to day, da da da. Then the elite part, right? When you said that, what I just heard, whenever like I thought you were going to go this way, but you didn't, was that you would compartmentalize the relationship to a specific need, i.e., you know, if you're wanting to have the most elite in cars, as an example, well, then you go to the best car manufacturer, right? So if you were wanting to, like, say you want to eat the best food in the world, right? So you hired this chef to do this job, right? So you could have a polyamorous relationship with that person, but they're only worried about that one aspect of your life. And then you'd have multiple people that would be essentially taking care of elite, right, parts of, instead of you having all of that vested in one person.
Yeah, the reason I didn't phrase it that way is because that's not what I was trying to portray. I don't think a relationship. I personally think monogamy is essential for a relationship to be elite, in the sense of like the reason I just use that metaphor because people are familiar with it, right? A lot of people compete in sports, but only few can be elite. I think to get the most out of a relationship and to have one of those top 1% happiness relationships, monogamy is essential. But but what I'm saying is other relationships can compete and be successful, in that Elder Drazi's relationship is probably successful, right? Because it has a lot of the values that can make a relationship compete.
I don't think happiness is that important of a metric when we're talking about relationships and whether or not they're degenerate. I'm sorry, we can't really measure happiness. It's just not fucking important. That's not like our country does not run on happiness.
I don't think those are exclusive.
This goes
What
to
is
monogamous
important,
people.
Ben Fick? Don't tell me what isn't important. What does
Yeah.
matter?
No, what is important is results out of function. Okay, if we can have a functional relationship that begets a certain type of result, whether or not it's poly or monogamous, then it should be fine. The only reason that I
Yes,
have
that's what
the
I'm saying, it
stipulation that
competes.
after children are involved, I veer towards monogamous relationships is because children need some sort of like solid structure, and we do not have a structure with certain types of nets in it. I don't shut the fuck up, Tuna. Your
You're
face is
biting
talking to
my
me.
argument. That's the reason I'm shaking my head. It's not because you're
No.
wrong. It's because you're stupidly right. You're
Stardust, before it goes
stupidly
off too
right.
far, can I
Cut it
respond to
out.
somebody online?
Yeah. I want to give.
It's going off the rails again.
Okay.
Right, because I spoke up for 30
So-
seconds after listening to two people talk for 15 fucking minutes.
Okay, Joe Rogan of Twitch, how about you
So-
pipe down?
Listen. I wanted to follow with somebody online and what he was saying about those rules. This is anecdotal, but this is also something that I think that we would agree. If I used a monogamous mating strategy right now, I have a 15-year-old. I'm sorry, I have a 14-year-old daughter who's hold on. I have a 14-year-old daughter who's about to be 15. I have a 17-year-old son who just turned 17. I did try to get another relationship when my ex-husband left, and then when that fell through, I realized I was out of time because of the age of my children to actually find somebody who could be there for them, and that would like hurt them to an extent, right? So my strategy keeps any kind of romantic relationships completely away from my children. Somebody online was discussing something like that. Polyamory is where we are sitting here going, this strategy isn't working for me. I don't have an opportunity to make this work for me. And we're finding other strategies. We're not enforcing those strategies on anyone. We're just trying to find something different that can fulfill these roles. Because if I tried a monogamous one, that would hurt my children.
Yeah, it comes down to, again, the goals of a relationship and identifying what the goals are. Six seems to think that, like, the main primary goal of a relationship has to do with raising children appropriately. And if that's the goal in your relationship, I suggest that you find somebody that is a good, like, partner for raising children. If you're looking for someone that is going to, like, foster financial stability, I suggest that you look for a partner in that regard. And if you're looking for someone that is going to pleasure you sexually and fulfill all of your sexual needs, then that's a completely different person that you're looking for. And if you've got such a small brain that you can only pursue one of these things at a time, stick to monogamy and just do one of those things. But if you're able to compartmentalize your life and what you're trying to achieve, then attach yourself to different partners to fulfill each of these things if that's what you need to do. If you find some super person that is able to do all of those things with you, freaking
Awesome.
great, go for that.
Yeah.
But I think that they're going to come short on certain aspects.
And I like that strategy. I do with them. I just don't have goals for my life with them. There's lots of most of it's romantic relationships. Most of it isn't even sexual or a physical intimacy, but I have different goals with them. We all tend to share the same exact political goals. We all work for the same things. We all sign up for soup kitchens. We all sign people up to vote. So those are our goals for our community, and we're all together doing that as a community. And it's just our goals for what we see around us in the world. But I'm
I'm
not
gonna
going
give
to
it
ask.
over to. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask I'm not going to ask other polyamorous goal that directly affects because I can't find that.
I want to give it back to Sick because Sick, and then I'll give it to Tuna Chip as well.
Yeah,
Mean
man,
other sick?
I don't know why you made me go right after Stabby, because now I gotta go after her. I just want to point out, it seems like every single time you bring up a fucking point, I get that you're looking for an answer from the monogamous people, but Jesus Christ, we can't have an answer for your specific situation. We need an answer for society. I don't care about your anecdotes 100% of the time that you bring them up. Literally, every time you talk and it's about you and only you, I shut my brain off. I don't know what else to do. You know, we need
Your
to
brain
have
was
an answer
working prior?
Yes. Oh, it was working magnificently. And then I saw you, and then it started to wither away.
That's why all the hair the hair falls out when the brain gets so big, it just pushes it all and it all falls
Why
out.
does all of society have to either be polyamorous or monogamous? Why can't we
No,
have a
it's-
healthy
wait,
blend
wait,
of the
it's
two
not-
without
it's not
anybody
about-
being degenerate?
No, it's not about being all monogamous or all polyamorous. It is about saying if you fit a demographic, we should have some sort of broad structure that helps uplift that demographic as a whole. We cannot address every single relationship on an individual basis. There is no way to scale those resources.
Well,
Yeah, and I'm
the
not
resources
saying-
you want,
myself, and
the data
you're
you
all
want can
triggered
only
and
be achieved by
pissed.
having more polyamorous people.
No, it can.
Listen.
Wait, no. The data can be achieved by recording it. People just want to be left alone.
Yeah, no, and no one here is saying we need to force people into a certain relationship. Like, listen, the panel is called "Is Polyamory Degenerate?" Okay, but I wanted to be on it because I have strong feelings about monogamy and polyamory. I don't think that people are killing the world by being polyamorous. What
I
I'm
said, why
saying is,
can't
I
we have
think
both
people would
without
be.
either being degenerate?
I think we can have both, but I don't think polyamory is degenerating monogamous relationships. I don't say degenerate like you're fucking animals, you're
No, it's like
disgusting and stop doing it. What I'm
yeah,
saying is the relationship structure
on the
generally,
decline.
your case is a unicorn, but generally the open marriage or polyamorous marriage relationship structure is based on the same concepts that degenerated monogamous marriage. So I'm not saying that people are disgusting for doing it. I'm saying those same principles are present in polyamorous marriages, and so those polyamorous marriages or open marriages are going to be degenerated the same way at a higher degree because they're more potently infected with those issues. I'm not saying
Tuna
they're
chip
bad
or
people. I'm saying they're not going to get a great outcome, and I want the most people to get a good outcome out of their relationships.
okay, tuna chip or CTV. Did you guys want to weigh in?
Yeah, I've got multiple points. First off, Jeb, the same kind of like lofty thinking that made it so that people individually, and you say yourself, are moving towards these adaptive strategies. It's the same type of lofty thinking that you're having, but you're having it from a top-down approach. People are not, this is the answer. We shouldn't have a general system of rule. We shouldn't. That's stupid. It's fucking useless to tell people you should do this, you should do that.
I'm not
Also,
saying we
number
No,
shouldn't.
two,
look, hold on. It's
I'm
not a
not
top
done.
down. It's not a top
Oh,
down
come on,
approach.
CTV.
It's
Come
a
on,
bot. It's a
CTV.
listen. It's a bottom up approach. Okay, ladies, put your bottom up and learn how to make some fucking sandwiches, and you'll have a successful relationship. I don't know what to tell you.
I nodded at first, but I take away my nod for the half. What happened halfway through?
Guys said
Yeah,
you,
you in the
you,
first half.
why don't you just say that you hate women, man? You're saying you're taking like 5 minutes over the course of the last hour to tell us how much you don't like women. I like women so much that I'm with 2 of them. You said the natural state of a human is not having sex. I guess that just means that
No,
you're
that's
by
not.
yourself a lot.
That's
And you have all
not
these
because you
weird
like
abstract
women that
ideas
you're
about
with two of
women.
them. You already admitted this earlier. Part of the reason that it's advantageous for you as an individual to be in a polyamorous relationship or triad relationship is because those 2 women, when you're away, are taking care of themselves. You don't have to take care of 2 women. They take care of each other.
Well, they
Okay?
they do take care of each other, and we all take care of each other.
At
Sick,
least it's
sick.
not bend over
You
and make
haven't
me a
talked about
sandwich.
the big elephant in the room is that he doesn't love women and thus is with 2 of them. He hates women and thus he sexually exposes his body to 2 different women. He subjects 2 women on the regular to that elephant. Oh my God, that sort of like penguin from Batman kind of body shape that he's got working out. I want to go ahead and say, guys, number one, you haven't been thinking about how non-monogamy can profit people from a traditionalist standpoint, right?
I
Because
don't
we're
want
talking
it
about
to.
polyamory, but I'm a sort of an Andrew Tate type figure. I need a bitch to be finessing people with her pussy. I don't want people if you ain't got one of these, then you're not getting the number to one of these. Okay? So this is the first thing. I need a hustler, I need a grinder, I need someone who has a grinder account. She has to have a
I was
penis.
gonna say you
There's
got
there's
grinders.
a way to make this work, right? There's a way to get this grind on. Now that we got the memes out of the way, fucking CTV, if you wanna do some memes here and there, I'd love to hear it. If you got some actual ideas on the traditionalism, I'd like to hear it. But so far, I'm hearing traditionalism from fucking dude with hat, whose real argument is that monogamy is the only way to get a top 1% apex predator
Yeah.
relationship, and then sick
Hey.
here who's like, if you have a baby, then you need to be monogamous. But here's the thing: if you have a baby, your relationship is no longer about you. It's a
I was.
job that you now do to pay for the debt of having this
Yes,
child.
yes.
This
And
is
That's
parents can
being a
shut
parent.
the
Hardly.
fuck up instead of whining, oh, my individuality. I want to be with 7 dudes while I got to take care of a fucking baby. Like, no, I
Well,
don't
sick.
care
This is the
about
thing.
your individuality. Get fucked.
Parents aren't people. Parents aren't people. You're having a conversation about people right now. If it's
Let's just
parents,
talk
then
about
yeah.
your ability to get 7 people to even try to want to be with you, Sick, and then we.
Listen.
I don't know,
So
Stabby.
so. What I
again.
would say as advice to young men, right?
Oh no.
Okay, let's hear it.
The glasses are coming off. I don't like this.
So, as advice to young men, what I would say is first, master yourself. You
Masturbate
need
yourself?
Oh, now he's gonna give the good advice. Now the glasses have come off.
Oh, is that what you think? No, we're putting it back on. Now, the master yourself, right? The pursuit in life is not sex. The pursuit in life is figuring out who you are and what you're about. What are the values that you have for yourself? What are the ones that have been tempered and hardened through experience? Which ones can you learn through the experience of others without having to learn the hard lesson yourself?
Wait, that's all
If the
really great.
pursuit
Oh,
if the
sorry.
pursuit of the relationship is only sexual, you will never find the fulfillment for yourself, for any of your goals, or even the relationship that you may find yourself in without it. So,
That was solid advice, CTV, but I don't know what that has to
Yeah.
do with
Oh no
polyamory being
no! It was like
degenerate.
it was non-advice. It was don't
Yeah.
keep it to just sexual nature. Okay, that's great. I mean, there's plenty of other things that we should probably focus on. I'm sure
That's
plenty of
what I'm
people on
saying.
this panel would land on the wrong qualities. I know you're not. I would say if we're gonna make a guideline for what you should seek out in a relationship, poly or monogamous, seek out not being on the fucking streets. Seek out being able to have food on the table every single day. You can live in the woods and do that. You actually don't have to engage in the capitalist structure. I'm just saying, like, there's clearly some sort of game plan to be had. Yes, it's. I know this is going to confuse you, Elder Drazi, but there are people who live off the grid, and not in America necessarily, but there are people who do it and they survive, and
These
they're good
just seem
families
like
for it.
goals to have for yourself, period. These don't seem to be like I've never entered a relationship like, all right, so how are we going to keep food on the table? Like that shit should
You,
already be
do you
figured out ahead of time.
do
You should
do
already
you
have a
think
game
that
plan
I,
for
as an
that.
individual, if I were living off the grid, that I could just take care of 2 children and then have them be totally fine and not get maimed by a fucking wolf?
You personally, I have no fucking idea. I don't know what your experience is
I'll
living
tell
off
you,
the grid.
me personally, I don't want to go the stabby route and be anecdotal or refer to only just me, but yeah, no, I cannot do that. Okay, I don't think anybody
Yeah,
on this panel
listen,
can.
and I think all the things we talked about, like I said, it gets summed up by what I'm saying, which is that there are things that are degenerating both poly and monogamous relationships. The issue is, since poly was created as a response to these things and a way to adapt to these things, it seems that these concepts are more concentrated in poly relationships. The idea of relationships being easy and feeling right and getting what you need with the fastest, easiest route possible. Now, Elder Drazi has created a situation where he almost has a polyamorous relationship with values that mirror a lot of that of traditional monogamy. And I think that will make his relationship uniquely successful because it minimizes the prevalence of those things. But it doesn't change that those things are degenerating both types of relationships, and they're generally more present in polyamory. And though we have a shortage of information on the success of polyamorous or open relationships, what the data we do have suggests that it leads to relationships that fail at twice the rate of a monogamous one. Now, I think Elders is probably in a good spot because it holds a lot of the same values that protect monogamous marriages from degeneracy. So his will probably be a top 1% relationship in terms of polyamorous marriages. But I want people, people are asking me what kind of relationship they should have, I think they should have the relationship that has the highest chance of being a top 1%er relationship in terms of fucking happiness, because it does matter individually to us. And I think monogamy is a vital part of that.
Polyamory
I don't know why
currently
you got
today
this.
is a
Okay,
response to
Drazi, go for it.
monogamy, like Tuna said. I just wanted to correct something you said, and you could go for it. It's
Yeah.
polyamory predates monogamy. Just to be clear, this is the old standard just re-emerging. It wasn't
Yeah.
created in response. Tuna said it right. I
Yeah.
just want to be clear that this isn't new.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Tuna.
No, yeah. What I'm saying isn't
Well,
like
here.
modern
Can I respond to you,
modern
Jeb?
polyamory in America.
No,
Can I
wrong,
talk to you, Jeb?
wrong.
Yes.
Look,
Let me get
I
in.
Yeah.
don't.
Do you think?
Let me get in.
Polyamory is
Okay.
not the default because the
It is
default for
CTV.
men.
Even no,
No, it's not.
CTV.
The default for men
CTV.
is
Even in
not
your
to
brain dead.
to
Even in
be
your brain
okay
dead
with
fucking
other people
example, you
fucking
were
their
wrong.
woman.
No,
It's not.
here's the thing.
It's not an
The
It's
important
not
idea
default.
that the woman is yours is not.
It's not an important hill to
So
die
let's
on
take.
because it's not
default.
vital to our argument. So let's just.
Okay. So no, what I'm
Jeb,
trying
I'm
to
sorry.
okay.
Did somebody make you the moderator of this panel, Jeb?
Well, no, I'm talking to CTV as someone who's
Did,
on his side.
Yes,
What we
bring
Okay.
it.
think
Are
is a
you
good
just
hill
gonna
to die
dictate?
on.
You're the boss of CTV now. You're telling
Nah,
him what his points are.
CTV
yeah,
was my mentor, and he's told me to keep
What?
him accountable when he hits
was.
too much of the
Whoa.
Mountain
What makes
Dew.
you think that you
Yeah, I've
haven't
heard
learned
you giving
everything you need
everybody
to know,
permission to speak
Padawan?
tonight. Okay, Jeb 10,
Yeah.
I'm sick of your work.
Anyway, so for everybody
So,
else in
My
Jeb
the
10, are you
room,
wife.
CTV's
whoa,
woman?
whoa. The
Yes. No, I'm
default
his
state is
son.
not
Apparently his partner,
polyamory.
according to what you
It
think.
No,
cannot
okay.
be,
So
right? Here's the
I
here's the
want to
reason why.
get in
Because
here.
in order to understand this, you're going to have to go back to base male mentality, right? This is mine, and you can fuck off. This is just how men are, right? And they
Base
become this way when it comes to their women, right? So
base
understanding
male
that from
mentality.
men, period, this is mine. You can't fucking touch it. And if you do, I'm going to slick. You get the
So
idea,
men are weak,
right?
jealous, petty, insecure
CTV.
creatures
Why
that
is
need to
her?
claim
No,
ownership
it's
of
about
CTV.
Why is
understanding
she yours?
human
CTV.
nature. It's about
Why is she
understanding
yours?
human
You're not
nature,
talking about this right though. If
period.
you want to talk about male mentality, the male mentality is to find as many pussies to fill with cum as possible. So
Just
it's a
You know,
one
the one
So
directional
that
true.
has to
anatomy.
change their
It's
camera angle to make their face appear bigger is the one with the tiniest balls in the room, just so we're clear.
I'll pull them out right now, CTV. But unfortunately, the thing about
Feel
do you know why they call you
free. And you know what?
CTV?
If you
You
do,
know that guy because you wear those glasses like a little blind man, and it's the only way that we can be reminded that you can see anything you fucking talk about, you goddamn idiot. Now put a fucking pork
was
loin
that
in your mouth. You
literally
want to
the
talk about
best that
this?
you had? Did you think
No,
about
I'm
that
just
all week and you said, oh man, I know CTV is going to be
okay.
in here, so I
You're
know I got to
tossing your
try to do
stupid
something?
insult at me too. I'm having my memes. Now, what I'm trying to say, response number one, you were saying that people are default, they don't have sex, then they start having sex. What happens when you start having sex and there aren't any rules between you
Something
and other
becomes
people about who
mine.
you can have sex with outside of that?
Let's understand nature. Let's understand men. Once they put their dick in the thing, guess what? It becomes the funnest and most pleasurable thing in the whole fucking world, and they want to keep doing it, and they don't want to fucking stop. Therefore, the thing becomes theirs.
Do you
That's
know
a
what you
weird
So,
do
jump in
after
You
logic.
that
aren't.
though? Do you know what happens? No,
Jesus
no.
Christ.
Let's talk nature. Let's talk nature, man. You know what happens about 3 months later? Almost always, they become less interested and they find some other pussy. And you know why? It's
and
because the
that's
natural
where,
state is to
Do you know what?
hyper reproduce, right?
see, and
And
So
Tuna,
that's
we're not
I
talking
gotta
where,
about
break in
natural
here.
states right now here.
Tuna,
If you
give
want
me
to
a
take the
second. Give me
monogamy
a second.
approach,
see,
I have
that
to
seems
break
to
in
be
here for just a second.
that's
CTV.
a personal
The
experience
other
thing. That is
problem.
not
no, it's
Wait.
everyone's
not.
The other
experience because
problem.
there are some
That's
people
like
that
the
they
CTV.
only
natural
want the
order.
one thing and they don't want to test
CTV.
anything out. And they're like, I found the thing I like. I'm happy.
Hold
Lots
on.
of
First of
people
all,
end up that way in
CTV.
life.
She's not a thing. First of all. Second of all, because I think we're above nature. Okay, I think that beings,
Yeah,
beings, to
you're
be above
down there
nature.
on the
That's why
panel
we're
and I'm
having
up
this
here on the panel.
conversation. So what I'm trying to talk about is among the great apes, do you know what typically happens about 3 months later? He can get one of the female bonobos to have sex with him, but none of the other female bonobos, and one of the male bonobos got 50 bonobos to have sex with him, crushes
Bonobo?
his fucking head.
Did you say,
Amongst great apes,
what are you
yes,
talking about?
amongst great apes, there are fewer males
Whoa,
because they
whoa.
all
Human
fight
beings are
each
not
other.
apes. I don't even know what the fuck you're
Hold
talking
on.
about.
Hold on. We're one of the great apes. We're a family.
Wrong.
We're in
Human
the same
beings are
family as
placed
great
here
apes.
by God. So we just have a fundamental
Oh, Jesus Christ. Which
misunderstanding
one?
about
Here we
how the
go. Here we
fucking
go.
world
Okay.
came to
You're
be.
you're appealing to nature, but CTV, you're appealing to nature, and I personally don't like appealing to a nature that could leave my son or men that I care about or men that are in my family or in my community vulnerable to being killed by the top dog male. I hate that idea. It's fucking horrifying. We're above that idea. I firmly believe that.
Any
Are we
less of
really
a
above that
reality.
idea? Don't we
Yes,
have
I think
people?
we
Sorry,
should
Don't we
be.
have
Sammy. God
sports
did it.
leagues? Don't we have fighting? It seems like we're not really above that. In fact, we like seeing that shit.
Yeah. So
I'm
I
sorry,
don't
we are
I'll
above.
like
say
you can sit here with
we
your
harness our
sentiment, but
nature.
your sentiment won't be found in reality, right? And no matter how much you complain about it, nobody else is going to be willing to listen to it because
In the world of
that's just
reality, we
life.
haven't found your God yet, but we have found these particular pressures, and we have actually genetically linked us to great apes. But okay.
Let's get off of the evolution and the whether or not God
And
is
the
a real
Taliban
thing. Okay.
faith.
So if we're
Thank you.
talking about the natural order, again, we can look at the Bible for a minute. We can ask, how many wives did Moses have? How many wives did Abraham have? Like, it's very common for there to be a million different women. And this idea of, oh, this is my woman and there's only one woman, like, this is a relatively new concept that's been around for a couple of 100 years at best. So, again, if we're going to talk
Eh,
about the natural order, there is this
no,
idea that there are
no.
a lot of
King
different
David
partners. And
is
as
the
soon as an
example.
individual dies, they're going to the other partner is going to find other partners to try to make sure that they're still
No.
taken care of.
Hold
Like,
on.
people are
We
going to
gotta stop.
constantly change and develop and advance. That's the reason why we're saying the natural order is polyamory, is because that's the
No.
way it was
So
back in the GODs, and
Who
then
gives a
later on
fuck?
we developed this
yeah,
new
hold on.
concept that, hey, we're going to
No,
stay
we
with one
didn't. We
individual
didn't.
for our lives, and then you're going to be celibate after that for the rest of your life.
We didn't.
And then that failed completely, and people are realizing, hey, wait a minute, there's a better way to do this shit.
No, stop. That's wrong. So anyway, this appeal
No,
to tradition
it's
is
not. I'm right.
the appeal to tradition is fucking dumb anyway. But if we're being realistic, the
Thank
reason
you.
we only hear about fucking polyamorous people is because even in the modern day, where we have this new monogamy thing, the most famous, rich, and wealthy people get multiple partners anyway. Same thing in the old days. All these Jewish people that had these multiple wives, the everyday Jewish man was monogamous. Always. The everyday person was monogamous almost always. It was the top 1% of people, money wise, power wise, who decided they were above that to get all the multiple partners and stuff like that. And then even those scholars ended up saying at the end of the day, a lot of the time, that it was a fucking faulty pursuit and that it didn't bring happiness because the grass is not greener on the other side. It is green where you water it. The more you invest in one thing, in one relationship, in one job, in one whatever, the better it is going to be. And the data pairs that out. The more
Wait.
traditionally monogamous you are, the more traditional monogamous values you hold in your relationship, the more successful your relationship will be. Show me the data that says otherwise, because I'm done with the anecdotes. I'm done with the appeals to tradition.
You're making a
Okay,
false
I'm with
equivalency.
you on
The
that.
rich people had multiple partners because they could afford to. It was
Well,
financial.
because they were desired by so many people that it was almost impractical not to.
Well,
Okay,
your
Because
average
they were
poor
1%er
person,
You can't
situation.
desire a rich. You can't
2,000 years
desire a
ago,
rich man. Yeah, you can't. You can't be in Greece and desire a rich man and be somebody who was born to a fucking farmer and get the rich man. Sorry.
Yes,
Not how
you
it
could
works.
absolutely get pounded
No,
out
you
and
couldn't.
abandoned by a rich man because what you guys don't
is
want to
that what
say
they
about this.
were?
No,
Were they just
stop.
pounding it out and
Stop.
abandoning
When
them?
you when
confused.
you guys talk
why
about
would you
how
say that?
polyamory, stop. When you guys talk about how polyamory was the way of the world, you know what the way of the world was in history? Men would pound out fucking women, have them have their babies, fucking kill them or rape them or whatever and send them off. You don't want that part of the tradition.
I'll tell you.
Why do you want the other
Nobody's
part of the
making the
tradition?
naturalist. Hey,
Then-
nobody's making the naturalist
I have
Then
to
why
argument on
read
bring
the
it
poly
up?
side.
I have to read a couple of super chats here, okay?
Then why bring it up?
Couchman
Hey.
for $5 says, would the men on the panel carry their wife's baby for them if science allowed biological men to get pregnant?
No.
Sure.
I
No,
would
because I
never
think
give
they'd
birth.
be
That's a sicko, disgusting thing to do.
no, they would just be complete unless you're morally okay with like having an OnlyFans wife. No, I think the man is going to be better at probably maintaining work long term. So
Well, yeah, I'm assuming they're saying in a world where that's not the case. Sure, I don't give a fuck, dude. I don't have any
Okay.
hang
If you know what I've been through in the last 6 months, I think, yeah, I think it's pretty easy to say that, yeah, I would probably try to take that burden off of my wife.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Also,
Nicholas
sitting at
Nicholas
home.
for $5 says, can you tell the Jeffrey Dahmer lookalike on the top left to stop making out with his camera?
I think it's hilarious that he's that close to his face.
All right. Chat, reminder to like the stream and submit a super chat if you have a question for the panel. We're kind of coming to a close here, but we'll go for another 10-15 minutes. So
Okay.
Okay. So
Number
again,
one,
when we're
Jeb.
talking
no-
about
Wait, is there another question after this?
no. Go ahead. I want to give it to somebody online because I feel like he's spoken the least here.
So again, if we're talking about choosing partners, okay, the mother of my child, I need to work with her and keep that relationship going so that we can have the best outcome for my child. She's shit at making financial decisions, so my current wife is a much better partner for me to align all of my financial goals for the future with. She's the one that I bought a home with because she's got her shit together and knows how to accomplish things.
Why
Unfortunately,
don't
if
you
she's
do
fucking
it?
shit in bed, I'm gonna go hire a prostitute or find another girlfriend that I can have a positive sexual relationship with. That way I'm fulfilled in that regard as well. So I see that I need three
Or
different partners without
you don't.
even looking at my business partners who are helping me run my business. And we're not having sex with those dudes because they're big, hairy, ugly fucking men who are good with money. But those are the people that I partner with to achieve those
So
things.
here's
So you
yeah.
need to
So
have
here's
a
the
lot of
monogamous
different partners
solution.
to
You
fulfill
don't.
your goals.
You don't. So here's the monogamous solution. If one partner's not as great at making financial decisions, allow the other partner the freedom to make most of the financial decisions. If one partner's shit in bed, that's this weird concept that people just sell out. If someone's shit in bed, they're going to be shit forever. Why don't you just communicate better about what you like in bed? Why don't you tell them while they're doing it what you like in bed? Why don't you make an effort to please them better in bed so they're more engaged to please you better in bed? And then
Because if I need
you
her to
don't need
clean
a
my
big,
shit
hairy
and she's
financial
Spoken like a
disgusted by
man
that, I'm
who's
not going to
bad
force
in
her to do
bed. Am
something that
I
she's
right,
not
ladies?
into.
What do
I'll
you
let
mean?
start.
If she's not, if that's what relationship is you compromise on doing things, right? Not everything everybody does in the terms of a monogamous relationship is something that they would have thought of themselves,
I was.
right? But
It
they
doesn't make
each have.
sense.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense? What part of
Not
this doesn't
every
make sense?
not
Making
everything that you
compromise
just
in
said can
marriage.
be not everything that you just said can be achieved by a single person. What if the thing that I
What?
like in
What
bed
can't?
is what if the thing that I like in bed that I'm asking my wife to achieve is being two fucking people in my
Uh-oh.
bed? Okay? I don't think she's going to
Oh,
figure
well,
that one
okay,
out.
then maybe that doesn't. What? Hold on, you guys are overestimating my amount of traditionalism. If two monogamous people agree they want to have a three-way every once in a while, and they want to experience that together to better their sexual relationship, fucking do it.
But I don't like one night stands. I need
Polyamorous
to have an
monogamy
emotional
is
connection.
based.
Well, then that would be a problem, right? Because that's where we get cannibalizing needs, where the needs of one cannibalizes the needs of the relationship, right?
Well,
If you need to have an emotional connection with the person you're having sex with, have sex with your partner. And if not, if you need to have an emotional connection and you need to have a three-way, maybe you need to do some work on yourself to be in a relationship that can maximize the happiness for both people.
I
Maybe you need to
did.
start putting your needs. You need to
He
start putting
did, and
someone's
it's
needs before
Polly.
yours.
So
I
I
did
guess you just have to deal with it.
and
Yeah,
my wife's
we're
happy
Polly,
and I'm
so
happy and our
figured that out.
girlfriend's happy. It's
Thanks.
pretty dope.
Yeah.
Listen,
We have all of that. You're telling us all of these
no,
things.
that's the thing is the vast majority of open relationships don't, and that's why 92% of them get divorced.
I
Well,
think
mine
that lots of
hasn't. Oh
times
well,
people
mine
see
hasn't.
I don't
open
give a
So
relation.
fuck about
cool.
yours. You wanted to talk about how Western
No, it's
marriages were.
working for me.
Shut
It's
up.
working for
You
me.
wanted to talk about how Western
Deal with
marriage was
it.
failing
They're
by
like,
the
do it
same
my
metric.
way
By the
now.
same
You
metric.
have to.
By the same metric that
You're like,
Western
this goes to
monogamous marriage.
crying.
By the same metric that Western monogamous marriage is failing, polyamorous marriage is failing twice as often.
So wait, I didn't bring up
Where's
marriage
your
until somebody else did. I don't have any problems with people who want to get married getting married. I got married. Okay, I got married. We were polyamorous before we got married. Then we got married. That's not a thing. What I'm saying is that you're saying that here's how these things can just work for monogamy. But like I'm saying that not all of the things that you said can be met. There are going to be people who have needs that cannot possibly be met by another person. And if the other person doesn't have a problem with it, this is the opposite of degeneration. This is them working together to find non-traditional means to making sure that everybody is happy. And that is something that should be celebrated.
That's working
Most
for
people
us.
could not have that happen in their relationship and still flourish. And when somebody can do that and they don't take their jealousy that they have and decide that it should dictate every action that they take while they feel while feeling it and having it be justified, then I think that's a wonderful thing and it should be celebrated.
Not about jealousy. This is a common like obfuscation from people who are arguing against monogamy is that it's all about jealousy.
I'm not arguing
You
against
can-
monogamy. I'm arguing
you
for
can-
polygamy.
I don't
get
think
it.
there's anything.
Okay,
Can I
get
clear
it.
something up? I don't think
You
there's anything
don't
wrong
need-
with monogamy.
You
Wait.
don't
I don't think
need
there's anything.
to
Treptan,
be
hold on.
jealous to acknowledge that monogamy offers
No.
certain benefits to sexual and emotional life.
You've talked more than
that polyamory
listen, you've
does
talked
not.
literally more than anyone today.
Yeah,
and the most
I'm
emotionally
not
as well.
ignoring you because
So,
you haven't talked enough.
listen,
I'm ignoring you
listen.
because you haven't said
There-
anything
no,
worthwhile in
none
the
of us.
entire fucking
Wait a second.
conversation. It's not
No,
about
wait a
talking
second.
time. It's
No
about
one- hold
actual
on.
fucking takes.
No one, I'm just going to keep going, you little fucking pipsqueak. No one on the
Sure.
pro polyamory side, not a single one of us, is saying that you can't be monogamous or that monogamy cannot work. We're saying if you're trying to enforce what you're saying will make us happier with a monogamy construct and that construct is failing, you need to work on that. We're not telling you can't be monogamous.
Abby, I don't care about your individual place. I don't care what you do. I think any relationship you're in
No,
is
I
gonna
didn't
be a
make me.
fucking
Wait,
nightmare
I didn't
because
make
you're
me,
so
Steven.
bad at listening to
Hold
other
up.
people. I
Hold
don't
up.
care about your
I'm not-
individual case
you're
at all.
Ah!
So, listen, I am telling you, I do not have a problem with monogamy working. That has nothing to do with me. It's cool. If monogamy works, go for it. That's wonderful. I'm not
And
trying to
then,
enforce any kind of polyamorous ideas on you. I'm saying that we found a different way to make it work, and that's it.
Okay, I want to give it to somebody else here. Who else wants to get in on this?
Banana.
I think you guys all make me super scared of being in a relationship at all because I might accidentally get with any one of you. Uh, I'm sorry, none of you guys seem like well-hinged individuals. So
You're all right, Sick. I'm not into like short bald dudes either, so we're not at any risk there at all. And you don't look like you make good financial decisions, so I'm not going to start a business with you either.
that's fine. I don't, for the record. But I would be honest about that, unlike some of the other people on this panel.
Well, yeah. Also, are you
Wait,
streaming
who
from
do you
your
not think would be
bathroom?
honest about that?
If not, you have fantastic out of bathroom walls.
Oh, me?
Yes. I always
these are-
imagine that this is a
these are like
restroom.
They're like soundproofing pads.
I was gonna say
Oh,
those soundproofing tiles look really nice.
Wow, he just totally told this guy that his background looked like a bathroom.
I've always thought that, and I just had the thought again while I was happy. So okay, that makes perfect sense.
What is your background?
I have a green screen, but Tuna came over to my house last week or this week, and he changed my OBS, but like he fell asleep part of the way through. So I've just tried to like piece it back together. And I've had such a busy week that I haven't had a chance to touch
I don't know
it.
what
Hold
that
on.
flag is, but it looks like you're about to start your own version of
That's
the
a
Communist
polyamory
Party.
flag. That's the poly pride flag.
Well, it's not very inventive or creative.
Okay. Well, hey, let me read a super chat to you
It's
guys.
pie.
Wait, where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, super chat. All right. Max Carson admitted to graping a woman. Please
Jesus
ask Tuna
Christ.
Chip why that's okay. Okay, Parallax.
What?
Thank you for the $5.
Yeah, Tuna Chip's not here though. You lose.
I'll tell you why Tuna Chip thinks it's okay. Because he's a sick fucking individual, okay? That's why he thinks it's okay.
He is sick. He did put the name under his camera when he zoomed in really close.
what do you think about that, Sick?
I think Mr. Girl gets himself in a lot of scenarios where it might be questionable whether or not the other person's giving consent, and given how he always leans every scenario to make himself innocent and other people demonized to some regards or ignorant or some other fashion, I don't trust that he didn't rape somebody at some point in his life. That's pretty much where I'm at.
You mean like rape or like
Rape,
there was a
rape, rape.
confusion? Oh, like
No,
knocked him
no,
over the
no,
head and pinned him down?
No. Not just a confusion. I think he would actively delude himself into thinking he got consent to make himself feel better. I think he is that kind of person, legitimately.
Wait,
I
Mr.
think
Grill,
he's
right?
brilliant.
Not Mr. Grill, not Tuna.
I mean, maybe Tuna too, but no,
No,
I
not
don't think that of Tuna.
I agree, Mr. Grill, not
Still
Tuna.
a big accusation, though.
Yep. Well, I mean, I'm not. I'm saying the likelihood of it is there. You know, that's not a definitive statement. Maybe he didn't rape somebody. I doubt it, though.
So we all agree that relationships shouldn't be defined by
Sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole lot more deeper. So then we can definitely say then that polyamory is degenerative, right? And it's on the decline.
I don't know how
So,
you made that jump.
I think that certain relationships, sexuality is extremely important in them, particularly sexual relationships. If the only thing that I'm trying to get out of this other person is sexual gratification, then sexuality is the most important part of that relationship. There are a lot of other aspects of relationships that are extremely important as well, and you need to make sure that you prioritize those things and that you share common values with the person that you're trying to have that relationship with. But there are a lot of different things that matter. You can't just say, well, sex doesn't matter, therefore I'm just not going to have sex with my partner for the rest of my life because they don't like doing it and it's degenerate and God says it's bad.
Based.
One of the things I get in trouble with a lot of feminists is this idea that they're always attacking this idea that men are constantly needing sex. You always have to be there for a man's needs. They have one job, we have a million. You always have to service them, and like they'll get that like nitpicky thing. And I've come across a lot of disagreements because I think one of the ways they did this, husbands who love their wives in the Renaissance era, they stopped having sex with them if they were struggling in childbirth because they didn't want their wives to die. So you got the financial, you got the being at home with the family, you got the investment, you got the, the husband reading the Bible to you at nights, and you got all of the romance and the poetry. But the courtesans, they got the sexual attention from the man, and as long as he never humiliated his wife and he never like made her lose status or leaves her, because she can't work back then, leaves her abandoned on the streets, like as long as that didn't happen, everybody was okay with it. I'm fine with that, and a lot of feminists crawled down my throat being okay with that because I think it worked pretty well.
Well, I think that whole idea is just silly anyways. I've been in plenty of relationships where the woman wants sex more than the man. I think that the whole subject about that the whole idea of like men or women wanting sex, I think it's all dumb and overly generalized, and people should just stop fucking talking about
No, no,
that.
no. They stopped. No, 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 no. In the Renaissance, they didn't stop having sex with their wives because their wives didn't have sex. They
No, I
stopped
am.
having sex with their wives because they didn't have contraception, not
No,
not
I was saying
effective contraception.
I was commenting on what you were saying about how
Yeah,
you get into trouble with feminists because of what they say. I think the whole conversation that men always want sex or men want sex more, it's just overgeneralized dumb bullshit. We should stop talking about that because it's
agreed.
nonsense.
Agreed. I want sex. I want to know. I want to know if C that I should keep it, the they that is my man, and that I have possession over it. And once I have good sex with it, I should keep it.
The problem with that is you're a woman and therefore do not have the power necessary to hold on to it.
Yeah, I think one of the major
Women
things
can buy guns, dude.
that's great. That's great. They need them if they're going to defend
Oh yeah.
themselves.
Oh
As a
yeah,
woman, how
definitely.
do you as a woman, how do you make sure that a man is yours, CTV?
You don't.
What?
Oh, so it's only one way, and we can just
No.
completely not
He
consistent. Okay,
hates
cool.
See,
women.
Thanks. I will.
now, see, because the question there, right, implies like an overall responsibility or ownership of the dynamics of the reality that are around them, right? Men are charged with gathering, going and getting food a lot of times, right? Going on the hunts, right? Providing shelter, right? There are things that are expected of men to do, and when they do these things, therefore they ensure that the relationship, whatever that they have with this person, right, that person is taken care of. Now, in the modern age, right, we definitely have a lot more equality for women to be able to do that. But it doesn't take away from at the base root of the differences between men and women. Whenever it comes to fighting, men are always going to be at the advantage. So, sure, so long as society stays propped up the way that it is and we keep moving forward, then the dynamics will be as they are. But if it collapses for any number of reasons, right, then there's going to be a significant loss of power from women back to men through default status of the world.
I'm gonna need to borrow
Is
your
that your
glasses
fantasy
because I
there?
didn't see a single point that you just made, my guy.
Testy for $5 asks, why does Sick think it's a good idea to jerk off before a date? So when you have sex, you can't get hard, and she thinks it's her fault.
Well, it
Right.
depends, right? I agree with Sick because as a
First of
young
all, what
man, it's
date?
better to jerk off so that you can get the most out of the sexual experience after the date. Because if you don't have struggles getting hard, you probably should jerk off before the date just in case.
Yeah.
I'm starting to
I
see the problem everybody has with polyamory all of a sudden.
What?
Go
No,
ahead, Sick.
okay.
Answer the question
This is a
addressed to you.
convenience issue. This isn't like my
Excuse
knees
you.
aren't being
This
met
is a
issue.
question directed at Sick. I would like to hear Sick's answer to it.
I'll be honest. It seems like Testy hasn't seen me enough for him to think that I need to jerk only once before a date. No, I need to get all of that out. Okay, you don't just wipe your ass once. All right, I'll tell you that much.
He's like, I'm driving to empty before I go to the dinner.
Testy's first mistake was thinking sick and date belong in the sentence.
You just show up with a
Alright,
redder
well.
face than you already have, sweating like crazy, half asleep at the first date.
What the fuck?
Okay.
Like I think when especially in the modern age, right? If a man shows up to pick a woman up for a date, the next stop should be the gas station, and I want to know what she's willing to put into it. That way, it lets me know how farther out to the nicer places we might go, right? Because if she's not willing to contribute at all, well, right in there in the truck stop, they got pizza. I guess we can do that for a date. But she wants to spend,
We're
$20
okay,
bucks
you
in
hate
gas, but
women.
shit.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Unless I'm going on a date with a prostitute, I don't know that we even have to have dinner. That's just added expenses. Okay.
Mm,
I'll be
mm.
honest.
Yeah, true. Because relationships are, after all about utility and getting my needs met. So I could just get a prostitute and hire a chef, and then I'm good.
Yep.
I knew Jed would pick up on that.
Well, guys, I think that concludes the end of the panel. It was fun. I hope you guys had fun. Um, feel free to stick around if you want. I don't know what you guys would like to talk about, but I'd like to open it up to maybe have some different topics up in here, So
How about making 100% of all sexual interactions and strategy capitalist, and making sure that we have a monetary value to everything, so that we can stop hearing all the whining.
The
Overall,
problem is that a lot of women
Dude, let's do
overvalue
it.
Okay, if you
themselves.
guys are gonna get into another conversation, I'll just say I got stuff to cover, so I gotta go. It was great. It was awesome
Bye.
meeting you, CTV. It was awesome being on your panel, Star. Somebody online, Drowsy. Nice being around you again. Jebtan, good first debate together. I think some of your stuff is a little bit too puritanical in its ideology, but I get why. It seems like you've got at least some like religious influence. I can understand it. Stabby, we'll figure out something to do with you. Okay. All right.
Men should know what to do with my mouth by now. It's why they keep coming back.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right.
That was the most base thing she said so far.
I gotta get out of here too. I just want to say I wish we could have had a more pragmatic conversation about whether or not polyamory is degenerate without getting into like divorce and focusing so much on monogamy. Jeb, if you ever want to have that conversation one-on-one, I'd be really happy to. I think it'd be a little bit easier
Anytime,
for us to stay on point and really go over the things, because I think that of everybody who was opposed, you probably gave the most credence to the things that I was saying. I think you heard me pretty well. And I think there's a good conversation being had here if we're not like hyper focused on stats. So I
Well,
gotta.
people got to remember what panels are for anyway. Panels are for, like I said at the beginning, entertainment. And
Mhm.
then it gets you the opportunity to be able to jump into the more nuanced conversation. If we can get content creators to start understanding that whenever it comes to panels, then overall, the quality of the content consumed by the audience is going to go up. So,
Yeah, I added you. We can find a time to talk for sure.
All right, with that said, I'm out of here. I gotta go pick up my wife. She's been dog sitting for a week. I miss her. Peace out.
See you,
See
buddy.
you, Elder.
Oh, I'm sorry, and thank you so much for inviting me, Stardust. I really do appreciate it.
Of course.
When you turn yourself into a banana, we forget.
That's it for me. I am going to make sure that my stream functions better, that you don't have to see the green screen like you have, and that like I'll be able to pull up the panel and all that. I'm just not really sure about what all the things that Tuna did, so I'm gonna make sure that it's corrected. I'm gonna spend some time on it tonight, and I think tomorrow I'm going to do my React stream since I missed it on Friday. I was just too exhausted. I've had like the most work I've ever had in my life, like going like 12 hours a day on all the stuff I have. So I just didn't have time, and I thought I was going to, but I just like passed out. So I'll probably be streaming that tomorrow.